Chapter 102. Shen Lian pondered for a moment before taking action. Bai Ling, Shen Lian waved his hand, and Bai Ling immediately leaned over. Go to Snow Ridge City immediately and inform my father to sell the family property and move to Ronghua City. If anyone asks, tell them that I'm doing well in Ronghua City and want to move my family property to a big city. No one will be suspicious if you say that, Shen Lian instructed carefully. I understand, master. Bai Ling's eyes flashed. I'll pack up and leave right away. After that, Shen Lian went to Kong Yu. Haha, brother Shen, how come you have time to visit me today? Kong Yu was also a little surprised, mainly because Shen Lian practiced martial arts crazily and had almost no private life. Of course, this was not a bad thing, but it made him appreciate Shen Lian even more, which proved that he was right about Shen Lian. Shen Lian smiled. Actually, it's nothing urgent. It's just that when I was on my way here, I heard someone mention that the negotiation between Elder Gongsun and Wan Yin did not go well. I'm a little curious about what happened. Speaking of this, Kong Yu suddenly felt a headache. Don't mention it. Wan Yin demanded an exorbitant price. Not only did she want us to reduce the supply to half, but she also wanted a 30% discount. Otherwise, there's no negotiation. She's too arrogant. She looks down on New Kuan. Oh, Wan Yin wants to reduce the supply. Shen Lian's heart jumped. He had always been bold and careful, so he immediately noticed that something was wrong. Yes, she wants to reduce the supply by half. What does the faction leader mean? What else can it mean? Ask Gongsun Ji and Yuan An to negotiate with her. Try not to reduce the price and keep the supply the same. Shen Lian sneered. Wan Yin is so arrogant. I'm afraid it'll be difficult to make progress if we continue to negotiate with her peacefully. Kong Yu suddenly raised his eyebrows. What's your plan? Shen Lian waved his hand and said, Elder Gongsun is a sly old Taoist. If he can't reach an agreement with Wan Yin, what good ideas can I have? After a pause, he continued, I just can't stand Wan Yin's arrogance and despotism, so I can't help but want to go up and teach him a lesson. Kong Yu sighed. There's nothing I can do. Talking business is not like fighting monsters. It's all about talking. Even if my mouth is broken, I still have to talk. Shen Lian smiled and said, Business is like a battlefield. I think that instead of showing weakness, it's better to be firm. Kong Yu waved his hand and sighed. Being tough feels good for a moment, but you'll regret it for a lifetime. Shen Lian thought for a while and asked, Other than New Kuan, who else is the supplier of the Gu Garden? There's plenty. The Central Plains is a big family, and so are all the aristocratic families in the northern lands. As long as one had territory, the resources produced in that territory were basically ingredients for Gu. Everyone wanted to sell the extra ingredients they had and buy the ones they didn't have. However, in the entire northern lands there are all sorts of people. There are all sorts of forces forming alliances, forming grudges, and forming grudges. There are many mountains and forests, and it's a mess. In this situation, the various forces cannot use direct transactions to satisfy their need. They need a middleman who can convince the masses to integrate the resources and mediate the conflict. This is the meaning of the Gu Garden's existence. Right now, we can't leave the Gu Garden, and so can the others. Kong Yu answered seriously. For example, my thunderclap Gu's ingredient is Yang lightning. In the entire northern lands, only Ouyang aristocratic family has a natural lightning pool. However, Ouyang aristocratic family lives in the northern snowy mountains, and is 100,000 li away from Ronghua City. If I want to buy Yang lightning, I can only rely on the Gu Garden. Because Ouyang aristocratic family will sell the Yang lightning to the Gu Garden and exchange it for the ingredients they need. Shen Lian understood. Yes, this is Wan Yin's confidence. Even if she kicks away New Kuan, the Gu Garden's business can still continue. Isn't that so? Kong Yu slapped his thigh angrily. Wan Yin had grasped Nu Kuan's weakness and haggled to death. It was simply killing him. Shen Lian's gaze flickered, however. Nu Kuan controls the territory of the #1 aristocratic family in the northern lands. They have the largest territory and the most abundant resources. They should be the biggest supplier of the Gu Garden in the northern lands, right? That's right, but don't forget, the Gu Garden has the support of the Central Plains. You have to know, the entire northern lands' resources added up is not even 30% of the Central Plains. Wan Yin is not afraid of offending Nu Kuan, or even any other force in the northern lands. Kong Yu said gloomily. Buying from the Central Plains has a high transportation cost and takes a long time. Wan Yin is not a fool. She will not give up what's near and seek what's far away. Shen Lian pondered and gradually grasped the main point. How does the Central Plains resources get transported to the Gu Garden? They rely on water transport from the Wei River. The Gu Garden has the best ironclad ship in the northern lands. Nu Kuan's ironclad ship was gifted by Wan San. Last time, when Wan Yong attacked the painting boat, he also rode on an ironclad ship. Alright, why are you asking this? Kong Yu asked curiously. Nothing much, I just want to know more. I still have things to do, bye. Shen Lian laughed and got up to leave. Kong Yu was confused. Shen Lian turned around and went to find Bian Chanyu. Shen Lian, what a rare guest, why are you free? Bian Chanyu was shocked. Shen Lian was speechless. Why did everyone say the same thing when they saw him? I have something good to discuss with sister. Shen Lian smiled gently and looked harmless. Oh, what good thing! The negotiations between Gongsun Ji and Wan Yin are not going well. He is at his wit's end, but I have a plan that can help him succeed. Sister, you also have a part in this plan. Shen Lian said sincerely. My part? Bian Chanyu showed a curious expression. Shen Lian stared into Bian Chanyu's eyes and asked seriously, Sister, do you trust me? Bian Chanyu was dazed for a moment before nodding. Of course. Good. Sister, listen up. Gongsun Ji will definitely come to you to ask for a favor. You just have to agree half-heartedly and take the opportunity to ask for some benefit. It shouldn't be a problem to extort a bottle of primordial water from him. Shen Lian said generously. A bottle of primordial water, he is willing to give it to me? Bian Chanyu could not believe it. He has no choice. Shen Lian was very confident. Okay, if I can get a bottle of primordial water, I will give you 2/3 of it. Bian Chanyu was moved. After that, Shen Lian went to visit Gongsun Ji. Gongsun Ji was under a lot of pressure and could not sleep well for days. He had dark circles under his eyes and had lost a lot of hair. He was showing signs of extreme fatigue. Elder Gongsun, why do you look so haggard? Shen Lian asked even though he already knew the answer. His face was full of concern. Don't have too much nightlife, you have to take care of your body. Gongsun Ji heard this and immediately looked like a dog. He said unhappily, What nightlife? I am racking my brains for Nu Kuan and risking my life. Why are you in such a hurry? I am just joking with you. Shen Lian smiled. I heard that you and Wan Yin could not come to an agreement. I am here to offer you a plan, maybe it will work. Gongsun Ji suddenly raised his head. What plan do you have? Wan Yin's biggest bargaining chip is the Central Plains supporting her, and the Central Plains resources are transported through the Wei River. Here, we can do something and give Wan Yin some strong medicine. Shen Lian tempted. What strong medicine? Gongsun Ji opened his eyes wide and looked at Shen Lian anxiously. Because of this matter, he was almost worried to death. Unfortunately, Wan Yin was very domineering and stubborn, so he could only use soft tactics and not hard tactics. On the other hand, the sect master kept urging him, so he was stuck in the middle and was in a dilemma. He was both mentally and physically exhausted, and was almost sullen to death. Shen Lian narrowed his eyes slightly. For example, we can destroy Wan Yin's transportation channel. What do you think? Gong Sun Ji suddenly straightened his body and shouted in agitation, "Are you crazy? If the Central Plains finds out about something like destroying ships, New Kuan will disappear from the world overnight." He was completely speechless. He thought that Xunlian had a good idea, but it turned out to be this rotten idea. Xunlian said seriously, "Who said I want to destroy ships? How can I do such a wicked thing? Am I that kind of person?" Gong Sun Ji took a deep breath and said with a "I think you are that kind of person" expression. He said suspiciously, "Then what did you say about destroying Wan Yin's transportation channel? There are so many river demons in the Wei River, isn't it normal to destroy one or two of her iron-armored ships?" Xunlian said in a low voice. "Impossible." Gong Sun Ji waved his hand. "Wan San and the River Demon Tribe have a contract. The River Demon Tribe will not destroy the Gu Garden's iron-armored ships." "Of course not, but what if it is an accident?" Xunlian's smile became more and more strange as he looked at Gong Sun Ji. Gong Sun Ji's hair stood on end. "Accident? I have enmity with the Shell Tribe and the Qilian. If I appear on the Wei River, the Shell Tribe and the Qilian will definitely attack me. If at this time, the Gu Garden's iron-armored ships pass by and get caught in the crossfire." Hearing this, Gong Sun Ji's eyes brightened. He was moved, but he was still suspicious. He said puzzledly, "I don't have any relationship with you, we even have some conflicts and are hard to get along with. Why are you helping me?" Xunlian sighed and clenched his teeth. "You should know that my feud with Wan Yin is even worse. She tried to murder my good friend, Madame Wan, many times. She even instructed Chao Qing to harm me. The blood curse almost took my life. I have wanted to teach her a lesson for a long time." Gong Sun Ji's expression changed. He had heard about Chao Qing trying to kill Xunlian, but he did not know that Wan Yin was behind it. But this matter involved too many people. It could not be made up by Xunlian. It should be true. After all, Xunlian and Lu Rui were good friends. It was not a secret. Wan Yin hated Lu Rui and also hated Xunlian. It was entirely possible. Thinking about it this way, Xunlian's motive was very believable. Xunlian was not happy. He said angrily, "I came to help you with good intentions, using myself as bait on the Wei River. You still suspect that my motives are not pure? Then forget it, you think of a way to solve it yourself. I'm leaving." He turned and left. "Good brother, don't be angry." Gong Sun Ji laughed and grabbed Xunlian affectionately. "Come, let's discuss this carefully." After a round of discussion, Gong Sun Ji was very excited. "We can't let the gang leader know about this. He has always been too cautious. He will definitely not agree." Gong Sun Ji suddenly thought of something and his expression became serious. "Yes, I also think that the gang leader will not agree." Gong Sun Ji's worry was exactly what Xunlian wanted. He had never planned to tell Man Boy. Gong Sun Ji nodded. "We still need to get one more person to join us. The Wei River area is under Bian Chanyu's jurisdiction. She also has the iron warship." Chapter 103. Pull Bian Chanyu into the group? Xunlian pretended to think and then said in realization, "Yes, you are right. I cannot appear on the Wei River for no reason. I have to have a good reason. I do need Bian Chanyu's cooperation on this matter." Xunlian paused. "Also, during the time when I appear on the Wei River as bait, it would be best if Bian Chanyu did not show up." "Oh, why?" Gong Sun Ji could not keep up with the train of thought. "Think about it, Bian Chanyu's arrow of light is a great deterrent to the River Yao. If she is present, the River Yao may not risk coming out to fight me, right?" Xunlian said. You're right. Gong Sun Ji finally understood. After thinking for a while, a hesitant look appeared on his face. "However, Bian Chanyu is loyal to gang leader. If we tell her the truth, she will sell us out and report to gang leader. Then you and I will become fools." He used to be on Chao Yoqing's side and was enemies with Bian Chanyu. Their relationship was terrible and had not been repaired even now. They were only friends on the surface but not on the inside. Yes, then we will not tell her the truth. Xin Lian's eyes turned, his expression saying that he did not trust Bian Chanyu either. Not only can we not tell her the truth, we have to make sure she does not appear on the Wei River. Xin Lian emphasized again. Gongsun Ji made a sound of acknowledgement and then had an idea. Brother, I will have to trouble you to pacify Bian Chanyu. She has a close relationship with you. She will believe and listen to anything you say. Xin Lian raised his eyebrows and said, Are you sure? If I go find Bian Chanyu and tell her I want to appear on the Wei River, it would be strange if she would not be suspicious. If you're not careful and end up making a fool of yourself, she'll definitely think that this is your idea and that you're deliberately setting up a trap to drag me down with you. She'll turn around and take me to the gang leader to complain. At that time, can you explain yourself clearly? Gongsun Ji thought and agreed. He said worriedly, Then what should we do? You will have to convince her. For example, you can find a reason for her to pretend to be sick for a period of time. During the recuperation period, she can entrust me to look after the waters of the Wei River that she is in charge of. That would be reasonable. Ah, that is the only way. Gongsun Ji thought about it and couldn't find anything wrong with it. Sure enough, he had to do it himself. Seeing this, Xin Lian quickly changed the topic. After dealing with Bian Chanyu, we just need to do one more thing and everything will be ready. What is it? Gongsun Ji frowned and thought for a while, but he couldn't think of anything. His face was blank. Xin Lian reminded, On the day the Gu Garden's ironclad ship arrives, I will appear on the Wei River. But how can I guarantee the River Yao will come? You have to think of a way to inform the Shell Clan or Qi Lian. Using both methods there will be no mistake. Inform. Gongsun Ji held his breath. Xin Lian said, Wan San, you can make a contract with the River Yao, can't you? Gongsun Ji fell into silence. A moment later, Gongsun Ji came to Bian Chanyu. Elder Bian, how have you been? Gongsun Ji smiled and asked. Bian Chanyu's mouth twitched, and he said expressionlessly, Thank you for your concern, I am very well. Gongsun Ji had a toothache and said with a smile, Then I will not talk nonsense, I have something I need your help with. Tell me. One of my sworn brothers, his son was killed by a River Yao when he was playing on the Wei River. He was filled with grief and hatred, and begged me to take revenge for his son. Gongsun Ji said with grief and indignation. He was not lying, it was true, but this tragedy happened 6 years ago. Oh, which River Yao? Qi Lian. After thinking about it, Gongsun Ji decided not to inform the Shell Clan, and only the Qi Lian. There was no other reason. Xin Lian killed the Sea Claw Demon, and formed a blood feud with the Shell Clan. The Shell Clan would definitely come for revenge, and if Xin Lian died in battle, Gongsun Ji would not be able to explain it. The Qi Lian was different. He did not have such a deep feud with Xin Lian, and the Shell Clan would not come for revenge. If one man and one demon fought, Xin Lian's life would not be in danger. The Qi Lian is very cunning. If you want to take revenge on the Qi Lian, it will be difficult. Bian Chanyu shook his head. Gongsun Ji was very confident, so I thought of a plan. I planned to lure the Qi Lian out, and then kill him. How? It is very simple. The Qi Lian and Elder Shun have a grudge. I asked him to be the bait to lure the Qi Lian, and I will ambush in the dark, waiting for an opportunity. Gongsun Ji looked like he was planning a strategy. Elder Shun agreed. Bian Chanyu was shocked. If Xin Lian did not talk to her in advance, her first reaction would be that Gongsun Ji had tricked Xin Lian with his sweet words. He agreed. Gongsun Ji smiled very confidently. Bian Chanyu narrowed her eyes. You want to rope me in? It's a misunderstanding. Gongsun Ji quickly waved his hand. Who doesn't know of Elder Bian's reputation? The whole River Demon clan is afraid of your light arrow. If you are here, the Qi Lian may be too scared to come. How can you lure him? Then it is very simple. You ask the faction leader for a few days of sick leave, and during the absence, ask Elder Shen to patrol the Wei River for you. When the Qi Lian hears this news, he will be ready to make a move. Gong Sun Ji made a cut in front of his neck with a fierce expression, his meaning self-evident. Bian Chanyu understood, so this was what he wanted to do. She knew Gong Sun Ji's character. This guy was selfish. How could he provoke the Qi Lian for a sworn brother's son? This matter was not so simple. However, Shen Lian asked her to do this. After thinking for a while, Bian Chanyu said coldly, "If Elder Shen is the bait, if something happens to him, how can we explain it to the faction leader? I can't agree." Gong Sun Ji knew Bian Chanyu would say this, and quickly said, "You have seen Elder Shen's fighting ability. How can the Qi Lian be his opponent? Don't forget, I can sneak attack from the side. The one in danger is the Qi Lian, not the Elder Shen." Bian Chanyu said righteously, "The waters of the Wei River are complicated. There are river demons everywhere. Can you guarantee that other river demons and the Qi Lian won't come out together? The risk is too big. Why should I take the risk for you?" Gong Sun Ji gradually came back to his senses and smiled coldly. "What do you want? Just say it." Bian Chanyu raised 2 fingers. 2 bottles of primordial water. "Are you robbing?" Gong Sun Ji jumped up and flung his sleeves. "Don't even think about it. I won't see you out." Bian Chanyu was also domineering. Gong Sun Ji's breathing stagnated, and he slowly calmed down, and began to bargain with Bian Chanyu. After an hour of negotiation, Gong Sun Ji walked out of Bian Chanyu's office with a gloomy expression. "Elder Gong Sun, have a safe trip, come back often when you have time." Bian Chanyu was full of smiles behind him, which made Gong Sun Ji tremble with anger. He also didn't want to be blackmailed by Bian Chanyu like this, but he had no choice. If he couldn't reach a new agreement with Wan Yin, he would be a defeated general, and the Man Boyu would definitely punish him as a warning to others. In addition, he had collaborated with Chao Yuqing to make Man Boyu a figurehead, and the Man Boyu was ruthless, so it was certain that he would take this opportunity to remove him from the position of elder. The knife was already on his neck. Gong Sun Ji had no other choice. "I'll let you take advantage of me for now, but when I'm free, I'll make you pay, humph. Just wait and see." Gong Sun Ji looked back at Bian Chanyu's slowly closing door, and gnashed his teeth. At the bottom of the Wei River, there were jagged rocks of strange shape. Many pearl-like bubbles floated up and then popped. Between the huge rocks, in the depths of the lush seaweed, a water palace appeared. The outermost layer of the water palace was made of mountain rocks, and the inside was a hole, which was the special treasure of the merpeople. The empty wall. The empty wall was an independent space, and its shape was similar to a crystal ball. It was spherical and transparent, and through the glass-like outer layer, one could see the building inside. The empty wall could freely change its size, and could be as big as a mountain, or as small as a grain of sand, so small that it was almost invisible. Inside the empty wall, there was no water, and there was only a magnificent palace, like the Golden Imperial Palace, and extremely wide. The River Yao clan was proud to be able to live inside the empty wall, which was a symbol of strength. At this moment, the turbid waves rolled, and a black fish monster appeared. The black fish monster was ferocious and strange, and covered in scales, but it had the head of a fish and the body of a human. It had 2 arms and 2 legs, and there were fins on its body. Splash! The black fish monster broke through the waves, and quickly swam to the top of the water palace, and then flashed into the empty wall. In the center of the hall inside the empty wall, there was a huge creature. King Qi Lian. The black fish monster was very respectful, and called out softly. The huge python covered in red scales raised its head, and its body suddenly shook, and changed into a cold young man with red eyebrows and red hair that reached his waist. His body was covered in red scales. "What's the matter?" Someone threw mackerel into the Wei River. The black fish monster handed over a pure white, almost transparent, droplet-shaped bead. "Oh, mackerel is condensed from the tears of merpeople, and has the ability to transmit sound. Is someone transmitting sound to me? Qi Lian took the mackerel, and immediately heard shouts in his mind. Qi Lian, so it's for me. The most amazing thing about mackerel was that if you didn't call its name, you wouldn't be able to get the message from it. Qi Lian suddenly squeezed his hand, and directly crushed the mackerel. The exploded mackerel turned into a wisp of smoke and dissipated. Qi Lian took a deep breath, and inhaled all the smoke into his mouth and nose, and then a person's voice sounded in his mind. Qi Lian, I'm New Kun Elder Gongsunji, and I have something to tell you. The person who killed the sea serpent and humiliated you with the mast is called Shen Lian, and he has already become an elder of New Kun. He has repeatedly bullied me because of the gang leader's favor. I heard that Shen Lian will replace Bian Chanyu to patrol the Wei River the day after tomorrow. You can find a chance to kill him to avenge your humiliation. After hearing this, Qi Lian's expression changed slightly, and he said with contempt, So it's Gongsunji. How dare he try to use me to get rid of his opponent? What a useless piece of trash. After a moment of silence, Qi Lian became gloomy. Shen Lian, the one who hit me with the mast last time, this animal is quite strong, and his body must be very delicious. If I eat him, I should be able to improve further and completely transform into a human. Bian Chanyu is not here. Without the threat of her light arrow, I can do whatever I want in the Wei River. It would be a piece of cake for me to overturn an armored ship. As long as Shen Lian falls into the water, he will be my food. Qi Lian's appetite was greatly stimulated, and his green saliva dripped onto the ground, and suddenly turned into green mist and spread out. The black fish turned pale with fright and hurriedly ran away, not daring to touch the green mist. Chapter 104. On this day, the wind was gentle and the sun was bright. On the Wei River, New Kun's only iron-armored ship was sailing with the current. The New Kun flag hung high on the mast was fluttering in the wind. Shen Lian stood at the bow of the ship, looking at the huku. The huku was also known as Gui Jianchou. It was a dangerous place between the central plains and the northern lands. Undercurrents were turbulent and turbid waves were high. It was difficult for small boats to cross. Only iron-armored ships that were deep in the water could pass through. 2 Gu Garden merchant ships, armored and majestic, were sailing towards the huku. Suddenly, a black whirlpool appeared in the sky. Shen Lian also looked up at the sky. The black whirlpool was expanding rapidly, becoming denser and sinking slowly, as if the light of the apocalypse was descending. This was a scene that only Shen Lian could see. Rumble! The others saw the weather change. The sky that was clear and cloudless a moment ago was now covered by dark clouds. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The sky darkened, accompanied by the howling of the wind. The weather has changed, quickly lower the sails. On the iron-armored ship, everyone started to get busy, but they were orderly and did not show any signs of panic. Dark clouds are pressing down on the city is about to be destroyed. The armor is shining and the golden scales are spreading. Seeing this, Shen Lian laughed loudly. His voice was heroic and imposing. Elder, there are many whirlpools in the huku, should we stop moving forward? Li Su ran over. The wind blew his hair into a mess, and he could barely open his eyes. For this operation, Shen Lian only brought Li Su along. Looking at the 2 Gu Garden iron-armored ships, which were less than 5 li away, Shen Lian smiled and said, Continue forward. Li Su was stunned. He had an expression of, aren't they courting death? He could not help but advise, Elder, the waves at the huku are ferocious. With the whirlpools, the iron-armored ship may capsize. It is too dangerous. Shen Lian looked at him indifferently. Yes, I will do as you say. Li Su could not help but shiver. He bowed and ran away. The iron-armored ship entered the whirlpools. Strangely, the further they went, the larger the whirlpools became. The iron-armored ship shook violently, almost losing control. At the same time, The two Gu Garden iron-armored ships were also swept into the whirlpools. The people on the ships were caught off guard. They screamed and panicked. The iron-armored ship shook more and more violently. Li Su and the rest had to hold on the ship to stabilize themselves. "Elder, the boat is going to capsize." One of the gang members was terrified and shouted anxiously. Shun Lian laughed coldly and shouted, "Why are you panicking? The ship will not capsize." Shun Lian Lian Shin Shin Lian 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 Shun, Elder Shun is invincible. Shun Lian Kuan, his tyrannical strength was peerlessly shocking. Everyone on the boat gasped in amazement and cheered repeatedly. At this time, the two Gu Garden iron-armored ships were less than a mile away. With a loud boom, a thick snake tail broke out of the water and instantly coiled around one of the iron-armored ships and threw it over. The iron-armored ship flew up and streaked across the sky in an arc. It dived down toward Shunlian. Heavens! Li Su and the others felt their blood run cold. They subconsciously shrank their heads. A few people were so frightened that they directly jumped off the boat. If this iron-armored ship crashed down, the people on both ships would be finished. All of them would die. Ha! At this critical moment, Shun Lian roared and jumped up into the air. His body was so small compared to the armored ship. He stepped on the hull of the ship. Boom! The loud sound was deafening, and the air rippled. The iron-armored ship that was diving down suddenly changed its direction and rolled back. Coincidentally, it fell beside the other Gu Garden iron-armored ship. The ship plunged into the water and created waves that were dozens of meters high. The waves crashed violently and directly overturned the other iron-armored ship. Just like this, the two Gu Garden iron-armored ships were capsized. Mission accomplished. Shun Lian floated back to the iron-armored ship. He smiled and roared, "Qi Lian, come out and fight me if you have the guts. Beast, you are too arrogant." A furious roar came from the murky water. With this roar, the river's surface exploded. Immediately, waves that were dozens of meters high came crashing down. Sword Qi. Shun Lian unsheathed his sword and swept the chasing wind sword forward. A visible arc of silver sword Qi flew forward like a crescent moon. With a popping sound, the high waves were suddenly split in the middle. Splash, the waves collapsed and fell. Only a few drops of water splashed on the deck. At this moment, Shun Lian frowned. In the heaven and earth avatar, his divine sense spread out. He sharply sensed that there was movement at the bottom of the ship. "It's Qi Lian. He wants to overturn the ship." The sturdiest part of the iron-armored ship was the bottom of the ship. When it hit the rocks, it could smash the rocks. But no matter how sturdy it was, it could not withstand the impact of Qi Lian. Shun Lian was already prepared. He grabbed a metal chain and jumped off the ship. He dived into the water. With his divine sense, he quickly locked onto Qi Lian's position. The chasing wind sword was also changed to the heaven-eroding sword the moment he dived into the water. The surging snow-silver primeval essence was injected into the sword. The heaven-eroding sword rapidly changed and suddenly became more than 10 meters long. Black lightning rumbled on the sword as it pierced towards a certain spot in the deep water. Puff! The heaven-eroding sword shook. The murky water was immediately dyed red. "Ah, damn it! How dare you hurt me!" An angry roar came from the bottom of the water. The roar was mixed with endless pain. Half of the water was quickly turning red. Shun Lian pulled the metal chain and broke out of the water with the help of the chain. He returned to the deck. "Qi Lian, it's useless to hide in the water." Shun Lian laughed. In the next moment, in the middle of the reddened river, a figure emerged from the water's surface. He stood on the water surface. He had red eyebrows and red hair. He looked cold. Who else could it be but Qi Lian? However, Qi Lian looked very embarrassed at the moment. A hideous wound extended from his forehead to the bottom of his right eye. The wound had turned black and was bleeding profusely. He was wounded by the heaven-eroding sword. The heaven-eroding sword had the special effect of corrosive lightning. Qi Lian's wound was on his head. The injury was extremely tragic. Even though the python monster's self-healing ability was better than many monsters, and so was Qi Lian, such a serious injury could not be healed in a short time. Shen Lian was calm and unruffled. He waved his hand. "You're finally out. I thought you were born from a tortoise and only knew how to hide in the water. Qi Lian, listen up. If you don't have the guts to fight me, then get lost." His domineering voice spread across the Wei River. Qi Lian's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. "Good beast. You're courting death. Today I will kill you." Qi Lian raised his hand. The fingernail on his index finger quickly lengthened and turned into a hook. He pointed it at the space between his eyebrows and slashed downwards. He cut open his own scales. Then, Qi Lian shook his body. His skin seemed to be dehydrated and loosened, separating from his flesh. In the next moment, Qi Lian drilled out of his own skin. The strange scene was extremely similar to a snake shedding its skin. Qi Lian drilled out of his skin. The wound on his face was gone, as if he had never been injured. "See, this is the power of my companion goo. My companion goo is called skin-shedding goo. It can allow me to regenerate. No matter what injury I receive, as long as I shed my skin once, I can recover completely." Qi Lian laughed maniacally. Shen Lian squinted his eyes. Qi Lian raised his hand. In front of him, huge water arrows the size of spears condensed and formed. There were a total of 50 water arrows, arranged in a square formation. "Thank you for killing the Gui Yao and allowing me to devour his body. I also obtained his water arrow goo. Now I have already turned the water arrow goo into my companion goo and evolved it to silver rank 3. Its power is even greater. It is not something the Gui Yao can compare to." Qi Lian laughed sinisterly as he waved his hand. The front row of 10 water arrows suddenly shot out. "Iron Jade Goo? Defend!" Immediately, light surged around Shen Lian's body. It was like iron but not iron, like jade but not jade, forming a thick layer of light that covered his entire body. Eroding Heaven's sword danced wildly as the first water arrow shot out. With a slash of the sword, the water arrow trembled and twisted before collapsing, splashing water onto the ground. Puff puff puff, Shen Lian's sword was impenetrable. Sword light flashed like lightning, interweaving in front of him and causing the water arrows to collapse into splashes. The water arrows seemed to be endless, while the sword light covered the sky. They blocked each other's attacks, going head-to-head and entering a deadlock. Qi Lian has mid to long-range attacks, but I don't. This battle is indeed difficult. Thinking of this, Shen Lian suddenly kicked the side of the boat. A broken piece of wood immediately shot out towards Qi Lian. "Humph!" Qi Lian snorted. He stomped his foot and a water wall rose in front of him. The broken piece of wood was blocked by the water wall and fell into the river. Shen Lian, however, did not stop. Pieces of wood were kicked away by him and hit the water wall, but it was all in vain. At the next moment, Shen Lian suddenly rushed out and jumped off the boat. He stepped on the waves and quickly closed in on Qi Lian. "Haha, you are courting death." Qi Lian was overjoyed. He could not do anything to Shen Lian on the boat, but in the river, it was his world. "Go!" 30 water arrows shot out simultaneously. All of them shot towards Shen Lian, who was gradually closing in on him. Shen Lian madly rushed forward. The water arrows hit his body, and the iron jade light barrier shook violently. Crack crack crack, countless fine patterns appeared. The silver rank 1 iron jade goo is indeed unable to match the silver rank 3 water arrow goo. Shen Lian's heart sank. At this rate, before he could even get close to Qi Lian, the iron jade goo would be destroyed. At this moment, the next wave of water arrows shot out. "Dodge!" Shen Lian did not hesitate. He turned into a series of afterimages and made a turn, dodging all the water arrows and rushing forward 7 to 8 meters. "This is..." Qi Lian's expression changed. He did not dare to be careless and quickly retreated while shooting out even more water arrows. But at this moment, Shen Lian stepped on the river and a long mast floated out of the water. This 20-meter-long mast was the one that broke off and fell into the water from the iron-armored boat that Qi Lian threw over. It just so happened to land at this location. Shen Lian grabbed the mast with his left hand and swung it, hitting Qi Lian's waist. A muffled bang resounded. Qi Lian, who did not expect this, flew out horizontally. His waist was hit by the mast and drew a semicircle, crashing into the side of the iron-armored boat with a loud bang. "Hold on!" Shen Lian tightly held onto the mast. A majestic force was transmitted and pressed Qi Lian there. At the same time, he ran forward along the mast. Qi Lian panicked and stopped playing. He shook his body and revealed his true form. Chapter 105. The Qi Lian's body rapidly enlarged as he struggled madly. Crack! The mast broke from the middle. Seeing that the Qi Lian was about to dive into the water to escape, Shen Lian became anxious and used the evasion gu again. Thorny entanglement. Right at this time, 2 arm-thick thorns appeared out of nowhere, one from the left and the other from the right, entangling the Qi Lian's huge body. The thorns were covered with barbs that were as sharp as steel needles. As they wrapped around Crimson Viper, those steel needles seemed to have a life of their own. They quickly found the weak spots between the scales and pierced in viciously. Swoosh! Immediately, the Qi Lian's body started to bleed and he screamed in pain, struggling even more fiercely. Thorny gu, Li Su has made his move. Seeing this, Shen Lian's spirit rose. Li Su's main advancement gu was actually the thorny gu. This gu was a plant-type gu. It could allow a person to transform into thorny vines. As long as the gu master had enough primeval essence, the thorny vines could continue to grow. The thorny vines would become thicker and longer, with stronger tenacity and harder barbs. Thorny entanglement was Li Su's specialty. Not only could it trap the target, it could also cause great damage to the target. Li Su looked ordinary on the surface. He was kind and seemed to stand aloof from worldly affairs, but he was chosen by the thorny gu. It could be seen that he was a black-bellied man. "Haha, good job!" Shen Lian was overjoyed. He stepped on the water and quickly closed in, emitting killing intent. "Damn it!" The Qi Lian was anxious. He opened his bloody mouth and spat out a green liquid. Puff! The green liquid exploded in the air, turning into a large amount of green fog that spread out. In the blink of an eye, the green fog covered a large area, surrounding Red Viper and spreading toward the deck. Chi chi chi! The thorns quickly melted in the green fog, breaking apart. "What a powerful poisonous fog!" Li Su exclaimed. His expression changed dramatically, and he retreated quickly. At this time, Shen Lian finally arrived. The heaven-devouring sword suddenly trembled. Black lightning surged as it was raised and pointed forward. Immediately, a jet-black sword light shot out. Unlike the old demon last time, the 3-inch flying sword wasn't silver in color. Instead, it was pitch black with black lightning coiling around it. The 3-inch flying sword that was as thin as a cicada's wing spun at high speed, forming a beam of black light that shot out like a bolt of lightning. He was aiming for Qi Lian's head. What killer move is this? Qi Lian was horrified. Instinctively, he sensed danger. The sword light was too fast. He could only see a beam of black light coming straight at him. There was no way he could dodge it. At this moment, Qi Lian could only raise his head and move it slightly. Puff! The pitch-black 3-inch flying sword pierced through Qi Lian's neck and flew up into the sky for some distance before collapsing and dissipating. It was like a beam of destructive light shooting towards the sky. 2/3 of the flesh on Crimson Viper's neck was gone. The head and the lower part of his body were connected by a piece of flesh, and gradually tilted to one side. At this moment, Qi Lian didn't feel pain, but the fear of death. The only way to save himself was to turn into a human and use the power of the skin molting gu to shed his skin and regenerate his body. However, Shunlian was too fast. The heaven-devouring sword rapidly enlarged to 3 meters long. It was as thin as a cicada's wing and was almost transparent. It cut through the air and happened to cut the wound on his neck. The huge head flew up. Blood dyed the sky red. With a bang, the head fell on the deck, causing the ship to shake violently. It occupied most of the space on the deck. The head came out of nowhere. The people on the deck were all caught off guard. Some jumped off the ship to dodge, some dodged to the side. There were also a few unlucky people who panicked and were directly smashed by the head. It was unknown whether they were dead or alive. The lower part of Qi Lian's body fell into the river. He struggled crazily, creating huge waves. The head also jumped up, wanting to jump into the water. Ordinary snakes could live for several days even if their heads were chopped off, not to mention a snake demon. Chopping off its head was not the end of the snake demon's life. Even with such terrifying injuries, the snake demon still couldn't die. It could heal itself and make a comeback. Get lost! Just as Mang Shou jumped up, Shunlian leaped into the air and appeared above Mang Shou. He kicked Mang Shou's head. Qi Lian was shocked and furious. He screamed in fear, "I will kill you!" It opened its ferocious mouth, and a dense green mist rolled out. As the green fog rushed over, the iron jade light film was corroded and melted. Shunlian's expression changed slightly. He jumped up and the heaven-devouring sword crisscrossed in the air. Sword lights slashed down and the head was instantly cut into pieces. "Stop! You can't kill me! I am the son of the Suilin of Goguryeo." Before Qi Lian could finish his words, the head fell apart like flower petals. Red and white parts flowed all over the ground. No matter how strong your healing ability is, you still have to die after being cut like this. Shunlian laughed coldly. Qi Lian had threatened to kill his entire family and sacrifice the 3 tribes. He had wanted to kill him for a long time. Now, he finally got his wish and vented his anger. The disaster ended. The black vortex condensed and turned into an orange-sized ball of disaster energy. It flashed and disappeared between Shunlian's eyebrows. Bewitching demon disaster descends. You have gained 4,000 bewitching points. The strange voice echoed in Shunlian's mind. He couldn't help but laugh. His laughter was heroic and high-spirited. Dead. Qi Lian is dead. Oh my god, Qi Lian was killed by Elder Shun. Elder Shun killed Qi Lian. The clan members on the deck gathered. They were stunned for a moment before they burst into enthusiastic cheers. Li Su walked over and bowed. He was extremely respectful. Congratulations to Elder for killing Qi Lian. You have succeeded in this battle. Quickly collect the spoils of war and rescue the victims. Shunlian's smile disappeared. He calmed down and ordered calmly. Yes. Li Su quickly made the arrangements. 4 hours later, the survivors of the Gu Garden merchant ship were rescued. They were all scared out of their wits. They couldn't believe that they were still alive. It was Nu Kuan's Elder Shun who saved us. Thank you, Elder Shun, for saving our lives. They gathered and knelt on the ground. They knelt in front of Shunlian and kept kowtowing. Stand up. Demons harm people, everyone has the right to kill them. I only did it in passing. Shunlian smiled, but his heart was filled with emotions. Speaking of which, these survivors and those who died in this calamity were actually killed by his scheme. However, the survivors all saw him as their savior. How comical was this? This is deceiving the world to gain fame. Shunlian looked at the bright clouds in the sky and was lost in thought. Not long after, Li Su finished collecting the spoils of war. He obtained a skin molting gu, a water arrow gu, and a Qi Lian corpse. Shunlian didn't know the value of a demon corpse until he obtained the eroding heaven sword. Only then did he know that every part of a demon's body was a treasure. Other than the companion gu, every part of a demon's body was an excellent forging material. It could be used to forge all kinds of equipment, known as demon weapons. The eroding heaven sword was one of the demon weapons. Roughly estimating, the Qi Lian corpse's value is extremely high. It can be sold for at least 10 million taels. Li Su smiled. Of course, if Elder finds it troublesome, you can hand it over to the accounts office to exchange for what you need. All right, I'll hand it over to the accounts office. Xin Lian smiled lightly. Let's return. Gu Garden's central tower, 3rd floor. In the guest hall, Gongsun Ji and Yuanan sat quietly drinking tea. This was already their 4th negotiation. A while later. You two are here again. I wonder what your decision is? Wan Yin smiled as he walked in, directly sitting in front of them. Gongsun Ji cupped his fists, smiling. Nu Kuan and Gu Garden have cooperated for many years. We have a deep friendship. Our leader hopes to maintain the current situation. The price and supply will remain unchanged. Wan Yin narrowed his eyes, sighing. It seems your clan has no sincerity. The negotiation cannot continue. Gongsun Ji said meaningfully. Nu Kuan is ultimately Gu Garden's biggest supplier in the north. Without our care, it will affect Gu Garden's normal operations. I hope Boss Wan will reconsider and leave some leeway. Wan Yin sneered. Gu Garden has the support of the Central Plains. Why would I be afraid of your threat of running out of supplies? The Central Plains are far away. Distant water cannot quench present thirst. Moreover, who can guarantee that the resources from the Central Plains can be transported to Gu Garden every single time? There will always be times when there will be storms, natural disasters, and man-made disasters. Boss Wan still needs this old friend Nu Kuan. Wan Yin raised his eyebrows, feeling that today's Gongsun Ji was different from the previous 3 times. He was calmer and more confident. But this could not change anything. She would not make any concessions. Just like this, they continued to argue. A moment later, a person suddenly ran over and whispered in Wan Yin's ear. There is such a thing. Wan Yin's expression changed. He became silent, his expression fluctuating. Yuanan could not help but glance at Gongsun Ji. Gongsun Ji knew what was going on, but his expression did not change. He coughed lightly and asked, "What is it?" Wan Yin turned his head and stared deeply at Gongsun Ji for a while, laughing. 2 Gu Garden merchant ships from the Central Plains were attacked by Qi Lian at Huku. They both capsized and suffered heavy casualties. However, your clan's elder Shun happened to pass by and displayed his prowess, killing the Qi Lian. Killed, Yuan An's expression changed. He stood up and exclaimed in shock. A Shun Lian killed a Qi Lian. Gongsun Ji's breathing also stagnated, his face twitching. How powerful was this Shun Lian? He could even kill a Qi Lian. Wan Yin stood up. Both of you, the merchant ships are in trouble. I have to deal with the aftermath. Please excuse me. She turned and left, but stopped after 2 steps. He said with a faint smile. Please go back and tell Chief Man that I will only talk to the Shun Lian in the following negotiations. What? Gongsun Ji was completely stunned. He thought he heard wrong. He could not help but look at Yuanan. Did she say that she will only talk to the elder Shun? Yuanan nodded. That is what she said. Both of them looked at each other. They did not understand. Wan Yin went out but did not deal with the aftermath. Instead, she went straight to her room and lay down on the bamboo chair, the corners of her mouth slightly raised. Princess, 2 merchant ships were destroyed. Why are you still happy? The strong and handsome young man walked over and rubbed Wan Yin's shoulders, puzzled. Wan Yin closed her eyes and smiled. This Xin Lian is more interesting than I thought. Chapter 106. Oh? That's right, he has the ability to kill the Qi Lian. He is indeed very impressive. The young man's mouth twitched as he said with slight jealousy. Wan Yin glanced at him from the corner of her eyes and lifted his chin with her finger. She smiled and said, Jealous? Haha, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about why the Shun Lian would coincidentally appear at the mouth of the pot. The young man's expression changed. That's right, the Wei River is under Bian Chanyu's jurisdiction. Why would the Shun Lian go there? Also, the Gu Garden has an agreement with the River Yao. The Qilian would not destroy our merchant ships for no reason. Could it be there is some unknown conspiracy behind this? Don't guess blindly. Bian Chanyu suddenly went on sick leave and asked the Xunlian to patrol in her place. The Qilian and the Xunlian have enmity. Once the Xunlian appeared on the Wei River, the Qilian would naturally seek revenge. Coincidentally, 2 of our merchant ships happened to pass by and were caught in the crossfire. Wan Yin smiled coldly. She knew Nu Kuan's matter like the back of her hand. Is there such a coincidence? The young man said suspiciously. The Wei River is extremely wide. The 3 parties could actually meet. No matter how you look at it, it is not a coincidence. Of course it is not a coincidence. There is a great conspiracy behind this matter. But the other party handled the matter flawlessly. There is no fault to be found. The merchant ships were indeed destroyed by the Qilian. This is the result. However, did you not hear what Gong Sunji said just now? There will always be a time when there is a natural disaster. Ha ha ha, this idiot is so stupid. He confessed without being pressed. Wan Yin's face surged with killing intent as she looked at him with deep disdain. I understand now. This is Nu Kuan's scheme. They couldn't reach an agreement with us, so they became anxious and resorted to underhanded means. This is a show of force to us. The young man cried out loudly. His face was full of anger. Wan Yin rolled his eyes at him and shook his head. That's where you're wrong. Nu Kuan wasn't the one who did this. Xunlian must have plotted with Gong Sunji behind the backs of Man Boyu and the others. Furthermore, Gong Sunji is an idiot. He didn't even know that he was being used by Xunlian. Oh, how do you know? Wan Yin gently fanned himself and said, the current Nu Kuan is still the world of Man Boyu, and Man Boyu wouldn't do such a thing. It's possible for a cornered dog to do something desperate. The young man lightly pounded his thigh. No, in fact, Man Boyu is on my side. He can't wait for the negotiations to collapse. Wan Yin's words were shocking. The young man was dumbfounded. Sigh, this isn't hard to understand. You'll understand if you pay attention to Nu Kuan's recent situation. Wan Yin chuckled softly as he explained. Before Xunlian appeared, Man Boyu and Chao Yuqing were fighting amongst each other. Gong Sunji, Yuanan, and Rong Chun, the 3 elders, sided with Chao Yuqing. Chao Yuqing had the upper hand, and Man Boyu didn't do anything. After Xunlian defeated Chao Yuqing, Man Boyu was finally able to hold his head high. He put Xunlian in an important position and imprisoned Chao Yuqing. He quickly cut off Chao Yuqing's wings. Gong Sunji and the other 2 were also traitors. But for the sake of Nu Kuan's stability, Man Boyu didn't do anything to them. Instead, he appeased them and forgave them. This was the right thing to do. If it were me, I wouldn't get rid of the 4 elders at once. This would cause Nu Kuan's strength to be greatly weakened and give the enemy a chance to take advantage of it. Until now, Man Boyu was a scheming old fox. He dealt with the 4 elders without shedding a drop of blood. He didn't kill a single person, which showed that he was very magnanimous. However, don't think that Man Boyu is soft-hearted. It's the opposite. A person like him, like all those in power, is extremely infatuated with power. He won't tolerate the existence of any potential danger. Once Nu Kuan's situation stabilizes and Man Boyu finds a suitable replacement, he will gradually kick Gong Sunji and the other 2 out of the picture. When the Gu Garden changed owners and I took over, it gave Man Boyu a very good opportunity. Man Boyu and my father have been friends for dozens of years, but when my father stepped down, he impatiently gave me a gift first. It was clear that he was a hypocrite. Man Boyu's gift had a special meaning. It sounded the death knell of Gong Sunji and the other 2 out of the picture. Gong Sunji and the other 2 didn't see it, but I did. A person needs to see the big picture. Not only do they need to see through the changes in the situation, they also need to see the big picture behind the changes. Nu Kuan's big picture was that Man Boyu wanted to get rid of Gong Sunji and the other 2, and he wanted to use me to do it. Thus, when Gongsun Ji and Yuanan contacted me and wanted to finalize the business agreement, I knew that Man Boyu wanted to make a move on them. The young man was shocked. He said in astonishment, "So, Princess, you gave them very harsh conditions to stop the negotiations." "That's right. The result of the negotiations was already decided. It would collapse and New Kuan would suffer heavy losses. The blame would all fall on Gongsun Ji and Yuanan. This way, the Man Boyu would be able to make a move on them legitimately," Wan Yin said with a cold smile. The young man's breathing froze. So this was how the game was played. Man Boyu and Wan Yin fought from a distance and played Gongsun Ji and Yuanan to death. They were destined to become cannon fodder. New Kuan belongs to Man Boyu. He doesn't care about how much he loses or how many benefits he has to give me after this. This is a power struggle. Schemes and schemes, unscrupulous and unscrupulous, Wan Yin said with a playful smile. The young man frowned and said, "Then what's with the Xinlian?" Wan Yin didn't answer and asked back, "What do you think of the Xinlian? I heard that the Xinlian is a martial arts maniac. He secludes himself to cultivate all day and rarely goes out. He basically doesn't have any personal relationships with other people. He doesn't seem to know many people in the sect. He doesn't even know all of his subordinates. In addition, the Xinlian doesn't eat, drink, or play. He never shows off, never forms cliques, and never takes advantage of others. He can be said to be a maverick, and his style is more upright. Moreover, every time Xinlian is in danger, he does amazing things. He killed the chelating demon, the old demon, and this time, the Qi Lian also died in his hands. With such tyrannical fighting power, he might have already surpassed Man Boyu and become the strongest person in New Kuan. The young man thought for a while and abandoned the little bit of emotion in his heart. He gave an objective and fair evaluation. Wan Yin smiled and asked, "If you have such a general under you, do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? He doesn't form cliques or play politics. He's especially good at fighting and has contributed a lot. Of course it's a good thing." Speaking of this, the young man took a deep breath and exclaimed, "Does Man Boyu not trust the Xinlian?" Wan Yin smiled. The breadth of a person's mind determines his tolerance. Man Boyu's tolerance is limited. He will generously tolerate the talents under his control, but he will have a different attitude towards those who are beyond his control. The Xinlian came out of nowhere and defeated Chao Yuqing. He helped Man Boyu to eliminate the rebellion. Man Boyu should have liked and appreciated the Xinlian very much at the beginning. However, Xinlian's performance was too shocking. His advancement was too fast and too shocking. After killing the old demon, Man Boyu should have realized that the Xinlian's rise was too fierce and exceeded his bottom line. He should have started to reject and be wary of the Xinlian. I heard that after Xinlian killed the old demon, he paid special attention to Man Boyu's actions. As expected, he did two things. First, Man Boyu gave the old demon's corpse to Bu Lingkong. Bu Lingkong's main gu is the puppet gu. It belongs to the puppet control category. He used the old demon's tortoise scale and other materials to create 3 very strong puppets. They should be able to resist Xinlian's flying sword killer move. This is the first step. Man Boyu is assisting Bu Lingkong to suppress the Xinlian. Second, Man Boyu secretly looked for some talents. These talents are all the type that can counter the Xinlian. This is the second step. Man Boyu is preparing for a rainy day to suppress the Xinlian. That is to say, if the Xinlian continues to rise, regardless of whether the Xinlian is loyal or not, Man Boyu will deal with the Xinlian ruthlessly. He will not let him become the next Chao Yuqing. The young man's heart turned cold. Man Boyu is already so old, why is he doing all this? Isn't it better to retire peacefully? Naive. Wan Yin rubbed the young man's head. A person's desire is endless. Man Boyu's thinking is very simple. He has no problem living for another 10 years. He can still be the gang leader for another 10 years, unless he really wants to quit. As long as he doesn't abdicate, no one can take the position of gang leader away from him. Anyone who posed a threat to him had to be eliminated. Even if that person is loyal and devoted, they are not under his control, so the outcome will be the same. Shen Lian must have sensed something, or seen through Man Boya's character, or some other factor that caused him to suddenly wake up. He is not a person who waits for death. He brazenly launched a counterattack and secretly interfered with Gong Sun Ji's matter. This led to Hu Kou killing the Qi Lian and taking the opportunity to destroy the 2 merchant ships in the Gu Garden. Man Boya gave me a big gift, and he also gave me a big gift. Now I have to make a choice. Continue to work with Man Boya or work with Shen Lian. The result is obvious. Shen Lian was able to kill the Qi Lian, which proves that he is stronger than Man Boya and is more qualified to work with me. This is why I have decided to only negotiate with Shen Lian. The young man laughed involuntarily. Shen Lian destroyed 2 merchant ships in the Gu Garden to prove that he is more qualified than Man Boya. This person's way of doing things is really special. This is the way of a smart person. Moreover, who can prove that he destroyed the 2 merchant ships? Under everyone's eyes, the culprit was the Qi Lian. Shen Lian killed the demon and saved the people. He is a great hero. Wan Yin laughed. The young man thought for a while and was puzzled. This Shen Lian's foundation in New Kuan is still shallow, and there are very few people around him that he can use. It's hard to say if those people can be trusted. Moreover, he almost never leaves his house. How did he sense Man Boya's hostility? It should be. Wan Yin's mouth twitched. Intuition? Intuition? The young man was stunned. From Shen Lian's daily life, he is an extremely restrained person. Everyone knows that he is obsessed with cultivation, but no one knows what other hobbies he has. Judging from his actions this time, he is extremely smart, rational, and has brilliant methods. Under these appearances, Shen Lian is a huge mystery. How did he sense Man Boya's hostility, and how did he determine that I would definitely choose him? This world is filled with countless unknowns. In a person's lifetime, they will encounter problems that cannot be solved with wisdom, rationality, or method. At this time, the only thing a person can rely on is their own intuition. Shen Lian should be the same type of person as me. We are both very smart and rational. At the same time, compared to these, we trust our super strong intuition more. Wan Yin looked out of the window, showing a look of anticipation. Still troubled by not being able to find the latest chapter? Only has a public account, r/d/444 or searchheat/degree a web text. Chapter 107. New Kuan was in an uproar. The Qi Lian is dead. The Qi Lian is dead. The Qi Lian was causing trouble at Wei River Huku and was killed by Elder Shen. The Qi Lian has been rampaging in Wei River for hundreds of years and caused so many families to be destroyed, but he could not be killed. Heaven has eyes. He finally got his retribution. The Qi Lian killed so many of our New Kuan brothers. He is finally dead. It is good that he died. He should have died long ago. Good brother, it has been 7 years. You can finally rest in peace. Sob, sob, sob. Elder Shen is too awesome. He got rid of a scourge for the people. It feels so good to vent this anger. So good. When the news spread, New Kuan's headquarters was in an uproar. Everyone stopped what they were doing and started to discuss with each other. They were extremely excited. After all, the Qi Lian River demon was notorious for its ferocity. Such a terrifying monster had been slain. It was a great satisfaction to all of them. Everyone, look, the iron-armored ship is heading towards the ferry. Let's go and welcome Elder Shen. Let's go. The clan members called their friends and ran towards the ferry, looking forward to it. A moment later, the iron-armored ship finally arrived. Immediately, the python demon corpse tied to the ship entered their sight. The Qi Lian's enormous demon body was even bigger than the iron-armored ship. It made people's scalps tingle and their hearts tremble with fear. Oh my god, so big! The bigger the demon's original form, the more terrifying its strength is. The Qi Lian should be close to complete transformation. He is very powerful. Until now, the Qi Lian's Gu companion is still a mystery. He was able to rampage in Wei River for so many years. His strength is naturally unfathomable. No one in New Kuan can do anything to the Qi Lian. Only Elder Shen can do it. Yes, only Elder Shen can do it. Elder Shen is too awesome. Good. Everyone went crazy. They were shocked, worshipped, and cheered. Their excitement was indescribable. At this time, Shen Lian came down from the deck, and the crowd became even crazier, cheering one after another. Elder Shen is invincible. Elder Shen is so brave. Long live Elder Shen. The sound of mountains roaring and tsunamis shaking the heavens. On the 5th floor, Man Boyu stood in front of the window, watching the clan members rush out of the headquarters and towards the ferry. He watched as the ironclad ship sailed over, and watched as the clan members wildly welcomed the Shen Lian. Even from far away, they could still hear the thunderous cheers. This was a grand occasion that New Kuan had never experienced before. The human heart. The Man Boyu sighed inexplicably. His face was expressionless, but there was a deep gloominess between his eyebrows, and a hint of coldness reflected in his eyes. Leader, haha, this is great news. Suddenly, Kong Yu burst in. Qi Lian is finally dead. I never thought that a Qi Lian would die in front of me in my lifetime. Haha, I'm so happy. The Man Boyu turned around, and his expression changed in an instant. He was full of smiles and praised. Your younger brother Shen has made a great contribution again. Kong Yu was overjoyed. He nodded and praised, that's right. The new generation excels the old. Younger brother Shen is a rising star, and the #1 valiant general of our clan. Leader, let's also go to the ferry to welcome younger brother Shen. What do you think? Kong Yu was so happy that his beard fluttered. Good. Elder Shen should be honored. The Man Boyu was stunned for a moment, but he immediately agreed. He went out with Kong Yu. On the way, they met Bu Lingkong, Liang Qizhu, and the others, so they went together. When they arrived at the ferry, the Man Boyu and the others found that there was a crowd in front of them. They were all jumping and jumping, swarming forward. It was too lively, just to catch a glimpse of Shen Lian's elegance. The Man Boyu and the others were speechless. They could only stand outside the crowd and wait. After a while, the crowd naturally parted to make a path. Shen Lian was like a king descending. He walked slowly, cupped his hands, and thanked them. Many thanks to my colleagues. Shen was able to kill the Qi Lian because of the blessings of countless ancestors of New Kuan. He was able to rely on leaders' divine power, and he was able to rely on everyone's great support. I dare not claim credit for myself, so please leave as soon as possible. Hearing this, the clan members felt relieved. Not only did they not leave, but they cheered even more vigorously. Elder Shen is too modest. Elder Shen is our role model. At this moment, Shen Lian suddenly saw the Man Boyu and the others. He hurried over, cupped his hands and said, Greetings, leader. Long live leader. The Man Boyu squinted slightly and laughed. Elder Shen, you killed the Qi Lian and got rid of a big threat. Your contribution is unparalleled. Shen Lian was as calm as still water. He smiled faintly and said, The Qi Lian was arrogant and arrogant. He attacked the iron-armored ship in the turbulence. I took advantage of the geographical advantage of the Hoku and luckily killed him. It was all luck. Luck? Everyone was speechless. Also, they had never heard of the geographical advantage of the Hoku. However, Shen Lian said it in a methodical and serious manner, so no one dared to speak carelessly. They did not want to make a fool of themselves because of their ignorance. Don't just stand there. Let's go back. The Man Boyu smiled and reached out his hand. He held Shen Lian's hand tightly and walked in front of the others. Soon, they arrived at the banquet hall. The 8 elders were all present. Gongsun Ji and Yuanan had also rushed back. Bian Chanyu, who was on sick leave, also hurried back from his home after hearing the news. Even the oldest deputy leader, Su Fu, came to support the banquet. Everyone drank and made merry, congratulating Xin Lian on killing the Qi Lian. During the banquet, the man Boyu suddenly turned to Bian Chanyu and asked with a smile, "Elder Bian, are you feeling better?" "Thank you for your concern, leader. It's just a small illness. I'm fine now," Bian Chanyu quickly replied. Kong Yu laughed and teased, "Elder Bian, when you were on sick leave, Brother Shen killed the Qi Lian. I hope Elder Bian can take more sick leave." Old and frivolous. Bian Chanyu spat, causing everyone to laugh heartily. Actually, she did not expect Gongsun Ji's plan to succeed. He really killed the Qi Lian. Strange, why is Gongsun Ji so quiet? Logically speaking, he also contributed. Bian Chanyu still thought that Gongsun Ji also participated in the operation. Gongsun Ji's heart was filled with complex feelings. He looked at Xin Lian, who was calm and collected, and felt a chill run down his spine. Xin Lian killed so many people, but he became a hero. What kind of world is this? The only person present who knew the inside story was Gongsun Ji. In his eyes, Xin Lian was a monster in human form. No, he was even more terrifying than a monster in human form. At this time, Man Boya glanced over and asked, "Elder Gongsun Ji, how is the negotiation with the Gu Garden going?" Gongsun Ji opened his mouth, but did not know what to say. He and Yuanan looked at each other. Both of them were a little confused, so they could only tell the truth. Just like that, maybe because Elder Shen saved the Gu Garden's merchant ship, Wanyin suddenly suggested that she would only negotiate with Elder Shen. Hearing this, Man Boya's expression froze. He was in a daze. Everyone looked at each other in dismay, unable to make heads or tails of this. Bian Chanyu's heart skipped a beat. He was shocked. Gongsun Ji went to negotiate with Wanyin. That meant that killing the Qi Lian had nothing to do with him. Kong Yu asked curiously, "What does Wanyin mean by only negotiating with Brother Shen?" He stared at Gongsun Ji, suspecting that he was up to no good. "Gongsun Ji, how did you do your job? Why did the negotiation end up like this?" Gongsun Ji was also depressed. He said in a daze, "How would I know?" Wanyin suddenly said that and left without explaining. Yuanan added, "Maybe Wanyin wanted to thank Elder Shen face to face for saving her life. Elder Shen went to negotiate. He might be able to achieve a breakthrough soon." Man Boyu finally returned to normal. His hand on his thigh grabbed the corner of his shirt, trembling slightly. He turned to Xin Lian and asked with a smile, "Elder Shen, what do you think?" Xin Lian stood up and said respectfully, "Negotiating with the Gu Garden concerns New Kuan's great interests. If Wanyin is really grateful to me, I am naturally willing to use this matter to obtain some benefits for New Kuan." Gongsun Ji could not wait for this to happen. He quickly said, "Of course. Elder Shen's ability is obvious to all. With him stepping in, it will definitely be a success. Only Elder Shen can take on such a heavy responsibility." Yuanan also flattered. "Then, I will have to trouble Elder Shen." Man Boya smiled, but his smile was slightly stiff. "It is my duty to share gang leader's burden. I will do my best." Xin Lian was neither servile nor overbearing. He smiled warmly. After the banquet ended, Xin Lian gave Gongsun Ji a look. Gongsun Ji understood and went to Xin Lian's office. "Gongsun Ji, what is wrong with you?" Xin Lian showered Gongsun Ji with his spittle. "I helped you with good intentions, using my life as bait. How can you repay my kindness with enmity? You did not follow the plan and push the matter of the negotiation to me? You tricked me like this, doesn't your conscience hurt?" Xin Lian glared at Gongsun Ji angrily. "Brother, don't be anxious. It is not what you think." Gongsun Ji's expression was one of utter disbelief. He could understand why Xin Lian was angry. If it were anyone else, they would also be angry at him and mistakenly think that he was the one behind this. I really did not trick you. I swear to the heavens that I really did not do anything. Things suddenly turned out like this. I was also caught off guard. Gongsun Ji explained repeatedly. Shun Lian's anger could not be appeased. You know how difficult it is to deal with Wan Yin. You can't even handle her with your silver tongue. What can I do with her? Things are messed up, and I will take all the responsibility. You are free of charge. Happy? Gongsun Ji said, Brother, don't think of me as such a bad person. If you don't believe me, I can call Yuan and over. He can testify. You two wear the same pants and are in cahoots with each other. Only a ghost would believe that. Shen Lian was angry and directly scolded. According to age, Gongsun Ji and Shen Lian were about the same age. He was scolded by Shen Lian, a junior, but he did not retort. From the results, it seemed that Shen Lian was indeed tricked by him. He was in the wrong, so it was normal for Shen Lian to be angry. After comforting him for a while, Gongsun Ji left. The moment he walked out of the door, he let out a long sigh of relief. The pressure in his heart suddenly disappeared. Who asked you to help me? You looked for trouble yourself. You can't blame others. Gongsun Ji curled his lips and put his hands behind his back. In an instant, he did not feel guilty at all and walked away. In the room, Shen Lian sat down. There was no trace of anger on his face. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised. Previously, I always felt that Man Boya had a trace of inexplicable hostility towards me. Today, his various actions proved that my feeling was not wrong. Man Boyu is very afraid of me, Shen Lian asked himself. Before today, he cleaned up Man Boya's disciples and made outstanding contributions time and time again. He had a sincere heart. He did not expect that Man Boyu was actually a hypocrite. Day and night, he was wary of his meritorious subjects. What kind of mentality did this person have? Well, I have already taken this step. The one who strikes first gains the advantage. Man Boya can't suppress me. Shen Lian's domineering aura leaked out. His eyes were deep and gloomy. Still worried about not being able to find the latest chapter? Amway public number R/D/444 or search heat/degree web text. Chapter 108. Just as Gongsun Ji left, Bian Chanyu arrived. Brother Shin, you kept me in the dark for so long, Bian Chanyu said angrily with hidden bitterness on her face. She clearly sensed that something was wrong and became suspicious. Shen Lian quickly stood up and cupped his hands, saying sincerely, I didn't lie to sister. Gongsun Ji and I made a plan to deal with the Qi Lian together, but he wanted to negotiate with Wan Yin, so I went to the Wei River first. Actually, I didn't expect the Qi Lian to discover me so quickly. Bian Chanyu narrowed her eyes and sighed. Using yourself as bait is too risky. Try not to do it in the future. Staying alive is more important than anything else. Sister is right. Shen Lian's expression turned solemn and he nodded. The Qi Lian threatened to kill my entire family and exterminate my 3 generations. This threat made me restless, so I couldn't resist Gongsun Ji's temptation and fell into his trap. I will be more careful next time. Bian Chanyu nodded and took out a jade bottle of primeval water, handing it over. I extorted this from Gongsun Ji. It's a bottle full of primeval water. Shen Lian took it and laughed heartily. Everyone who saw it has a share. You and I will split it equally. However, Bian Chanyu waved her hand and said resolutely, You killed Qi Lian and worked hard and performed a great meritorious service, while I did almost nothing. I don't deserve a reward for nothing, and I feel bad about taking advantage of you. This bottle of origin water is all yours. Just treat it as me presenting Buddha with borrowed flowers. Sister. Shen Lian still wanted to say something, but Bian Chanyu stuffed the bottle of primeval water into his hands and stood up to leave. After walking a few steps, she stopped and turned around to look at Shen Lian, her expression uncertain. Brother, you should know that goo will choose the most suitable goo master for itself. Then have you ever thought about why goo master's aperture sealing goo chose him? After saying this meaningful sentence, Bien Chanyu left without looking back. Aperture seal goo, it seals other people's apertures and prevents them from using their full strength. Why did such a goo choose Manboyu? Other than the fact that Manboyu can't bear to see others doing better than him, what other reason could there be? Shenlian looked at Bien Chanyu and pursed his lip. Bien Chanyu is a woman working hard in New Kuan. It's not easy. She's cautious and knows the temperament of everyone around her. Kong, you are straightforward, forthright, and gentlemanly. You take care of women, Bien Chanyu, and get close to them. Bien Chanyu maintained an appropriate distance from the others, each with their own ulterior motives. As for Manboyu, no matter how much he hides his true nature, in front of a sensitive and meticulous woman's heart, Bien Chanyu can still see through him. Bien Chanyu's words were undoubtedly reminding Shenlian that he was in the limelight too much. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. Manboyu was Shenlian's wind. After resting for a night, the next morning, Gongsun Ji came again, bringing Deacon Qian Xing with him. No matter what happened yesterday, Gongsun Ji was truly free. But there was still a procedure to complete. He had to formally hand over the negotiation matters to Shenlian. Brother, I'm counting on you. After entering the room, Gongsun Ji sneered. Shenlian looked at Gongsun Ji with a cold expression. The gang's products, production, and price are all recorded in Deacon Qian's account book. If you have any questions, just ask Deacon Qian. What you need to pay special attention to is that some products can be sold at a reduced price. Some products are relatively rare and absolutely cannot be sold at a reduced price. As for the specific situation, you'd better ask Deacon Qian. I won't disturb your conversation. I'll take my leave first. Gongsun Ji laughed a little bitterly. After saying that, he couldn't wait to slip away. What a bitch. Shenlian curled his lips and looked at him with disdain. Qian Xing on the side looked down, with an expression of, I didn't hear anything. Shenlian turned around and smiled faintly. Qian Xing's expression immediately became serious. He presented a thick book and said seriously, The gang's products are recorded here. Elder Shen, please take a look. Shenlian took it and carefully read it. His expression gradually became interesting. All kinds of products were involved, and there was nothing that could not be covered. They could be divided into minerals, herbs, animals, and hybrid. For example, iron skin goo fed on refined iron. The iron ore mined from the ore reserves could only be refined into refined iron. In New Kuan's territory, there were 23 iron mines and over 10,000 miners. The monthly production of refined iron was very impressive. Another example was iron jade goo. The requirements for its ingredients were even higher. It fed on jade that contained iron. Such natural minerals were relatively rare, and the price was naturally more expensive. New Kuan only had one iron jade mine. However, when there was a shortage of iron jade, they could grind the refined iron into powder and mix it into the jade powder to artificially create iron jade. Of course, such ingredients were classified as hybrid. This world's mineral reserves are all goo's ingredients and are largely consumed by goo. This also causes the technological civilization to be unable to develop. Cold weapons are already the limit, firearms are not even a starting point. Shenlian muttered as he browsed through the books. Goo had all kinds of different forms and ingredients were the same. For example, crystal dew goo fed on morning dew. A white level crystal dew goo would need to consume 1 liter of morning dew in a day. Many people collect dew for a living. Every day, they would wake up early and go to the fields to collect morning dew to sell before it dries. New Kuan hired a group of professional dew collectors to collect morning dew and sell it to the goo garden, earning a lot of profits. Another example was the crane bone goo. It fed on the bones of birds and could make a person's bones lighter, becoming as light as a crane, but their muscles and bones would become stronger and tougher. There was also the ghost fire goo. It fed on decayed bones and could let a person emit green, blue, and red flames. It had light but no flames, attacking a person's 3 souls, belonging to the soul attack category. The strange thing was, some goo's ingredients were beyond imagination. For example, the riddle-guessing goo. After refining this goo and placing it on the door of a sealed room, it could form an unbreakable defense, similar to a safe. There was only one way to enter the room, and that was to play a riddle-guessing game with the riddle-guessing goo. The riddle-guessing goo would say a riddle for you to guess. If you answered correctly, the door would open. On the contrary, if you answered incorrectly, the riddle-guessing goo would turn into a monster with a lion body and human face and eat you. The riddle-guessing goo had to eat 3 meals a day. In the morning, it would drink the urine of a child, in the afternoon, it would eat the sweat of a middle-aged man, and in the evening, it would eat the constipation of an elderly person. Another example was the grumbling woman goo. It was a curse-type goo. It fed on the tears of grumbling women. If you saw the price of the tears of grumbling women, you would sigh at how few grumbling women there were in this world. Deacon Qian, give us a brief introduction. After looking for a while, Shen Lian's horizons were broadened and he slowly raised his head. Qian Xing quickly said, "There are many types of products. It looks messy, but if you look at it from a different perspective, it is much clearer. I have divided the products into 2 types. One is the daily mass production type. As the name suggests, it is a resource that can be produced every month or every season. Minerals, herbs, animals, they can all be classified into this type. The second type is the precious and scarce resources. These resources are limited and are in a state of near exhaustion or extinction. Every bit that is used is a little less. For example, the black ice goo. It feeds on ice crystals that have been condensed for more than 100 years. There are also rare metals and minerals, they can all be classified into this type." Shen Lian immediately understood and could not help but ask, "Is it possible to use precious and scarce resources to exchange for restricted grade resources?" Qian Xing shook his head. "Under normal circumstances, it is very difficult. Restricted grade resources are controlled by aristocratic families and sects and are rarely used for transactions. For example, the black ice goo and 100-year ice crystals mentioned earlier. In the northern lands, Xiong clan's bloodline goo is the black ice goo. They have their own ice cellar and store large amounts of 100-year ice crystals. Only when there is a shortage of resources would they use restricted grade resources to exchange for 100-year ice crystals. This result was within Shen Lian's expectations. New Kuan's restricted grade resources were all bestowed by family Lin. The biggest reason was that they could not be obtained through transactions. Shen Lian was not disappointed and only sighed. If we know the situation of those aristocratic families' resources and discover that some of them are lacking in resources, and we happen to have these resources, we can exchange for restricted grade resources." Qian Xing smiled bitterly. "This requires an extremely powerful information network to know the amount of resources they have stored and consumed at any time, and to hoard these resources before they do. This is almost impossible." Shen Lian was silent. The next day, Gu Garden's 3rd floor guest hall. Shen Lian had just arrived and was waiting for Wan Yin. He had made an appointment beforehand and arrived slightly earlier. Walking to the window immediately, the entire Gu Garden was in full view. Entering the underground world of the Gu Garden again, Shen Lian stood at a high point and looked down at the scenery. He could see all the districts of the Gu Garden. Looking at the bustling people below him, he could not help but sigh. "The last time I came to the Gu Garden, I was still a nameless nobody. The current him was already on equal footing with the owner of the Gu Garden. Anyone who saw him had to be respectful to him. Elder Shen, I have long heard of your name." At this time, a clear voice rang out from behind him. That voice was exceptionally pure. The moment the voice rang out, It was as if the entire world had become pure, all the noise had disappeared. Once one heard it, their mind would be deeply attracted by that voice, even their soul would be hooked and immersed in it. Xinlian's body tensed up and he slowly turned around. Before he saw the owner of that voice, ripples had already appeared in his calm heart. A young and beautiful woman was wearing a snow-white chiffon double skirt. The hem of her skirt fluttered in the wind, her long hair was like a waterfall, her eyes were pure and clear, and she had no makeup on, but she was still extremely beautiful, stunning anyone who saw her at first glance. This beautiful woman was naturally Wan San's daughter, Wan Yin, who had an extremely bad reputation. A mystical aura was continuously emitted from Wan Yin's body, spreading to the surrounding space. It was as natural as a gentle breeze, almost undetectable. There is an aura fluctuation. Wan Yin is indeed a Gu master. Xinlian's heart jolted as he thought to himself, his brows slightly furrowed. But what is with the aura she is emitting? It is similar to charm but has some intrinsic differences. The aura is pure as if there is not a speck of dust in it, but it can evoke changes in my emotions, giving rise to a feeling of liking, worship, and even adoration. Still troubled over not being able to find the latest chapter? And Lee public account r/d/444 or search heat/degree web text. Chapter 109. Xinlian's breathing turned sluggish, his calamity avatar shook, his mind calmed down like a boulder, his strong will was unshakable as he squinted at Wan Yin. Wan Yin's body had a unique light that made her look radiant, giving people the feeling that she was incomparably noble. She was like a magnificent scenery that captivated photographers, like a famous painting that had been passed down for generations, like an exquisite work of art that made collectors unable to put it down, like a famous celebrity that made countless fans fall head over heels for her. People who saw her could not help but have a feeling of, she is noble, she is beautiful, she is the dream lover I have been searching for, I want to love her forever. It was love at first sight. The longer they stayed with her, the stronger this feeling would be, they would not be able to get rid of it, they would even have a comfortable and crazy feeling of our feelings will deepen over time. Even though they knew that she was out of their reach, that it was only their wishful thinking, they would still continue with their wishful thinking, unable to extricate themselves. Her temperament is not seduction, it is closer to the halo of a celebrity. She can make fans fall in love with her and turn passers-by into her fans instantly. Xinlian squinted his eyes, his curiosity was piqued. What is Wan Yin's main ascension Gu? These thoughts flashed in his mind, they seemed to be slow, but in fact, it happened in an instant. Boss Wan, I've heard a lot about you. Xinlian smiled and bowed slightly. Elder Xin, please take a seat, serve the tea. Wan Yin smiled and sat opposite Xinlian. Boss Wan, Xinlian spoke, but Wan Yin suddenly raised her hand to interrupt him. She covered her mouth and laughed. Elder Xin, I am only a little girl, I inherited my father's business, I am trembling with fear, I do not dare to call myself boss. Moreover, you and I are of similar age, we both have our own achievements, why don't we just call each other by their names, okay? Xinlian raised his eyebrows and said lightly, Then I will be presumptuous and call you Miss Wan. Young Master Xin. Wan Yin smiled. Pausing for a moment, Wan Yin leaned forward and whispered mysteriously, Let me tell you a secret, young Master Xin. Please don't tell anyone. Actually, I am also a Gu master, my main Gu is called 3000 Love. This Gu is extremely mystical, it can make people fall in love with me uncontrollably, madly love me to the point of being unable to extricate themselves, to the point of being extremely doted on, to the point of being willing to do anything for me, to be my slave. Moreover, I am unable to perfectly control the power of the 3000 favor Gu, my body naturally emits a bewitching aura, many people crazily chase after me. Young Master Xin, you have a strong will, you won't succumb so easily. However, business is like a battlefield, to make the Gu garden more profitable, I don't mind using the power of the 3000 love goo. So please be careful, young Master Shen, Wan Yin said with 30% mischievousness and 70% sincerity. Shen Lian's expression was slightly interesting. A goo master's core secret was the goo they possessed, especially the main ascension goo. Wan Yin did not play by the rules, directly revealing the main ascension goo, causing Shen Lian to be slightly stunned and become suspicious. Miss Wan, why did you reveal such an important secret to me? Shen Lian asked with a smile. I feel that we will have to interact frequently in the future, so why not be honest with each other? My father once taught me, to get along better with others, the best way is to let them know some of their secrets, Wan Yin said casually. Just this reason? Shen Lian was speechless. Wan Yin's words seemed to make sense, making it hard for him to refute. This woman is indeed not simple. Unknowingly, she completely grasped the initiative. Shen Lian pondered. There could be two reasons why Wan Yin revealed the 3000 favor goo. First, the 3000 favor goo was not easy to control. Even if others knew this secret, it would not be a big problem. Second, this was only a part of the secret of the 3000 favor goo. Wan Yin still had an even deeper trump card. 3000 favor goo, it is indeed a star halo. This ability should belong to a large-scale mental invasion type. If this was on Earth, Wan Yin would definitely be a top star with millions of fans. If anyone offends her, they would immediately be attacked by countless crazy fans. As he pondered, Shen Lian also felt the power of the 3000 favor goo, but he had the calamity aspect, tiger courage divine might, and was immune to mental invasion. He could defend against the 3000 favor goo and did not need to worry about being controlled by Wan Yin. Let's talk about business. After calming down, Shen Lian went straight to the topic. Actually, there is nothing to talk about in terms of business. The price will remain the same, but the supply will be doubled. Wan Yin raised her brows and laughed. How is it? I am so sincere. When young Master Shen returns, it will be easy to report. Furthermore, this is also a great contribution. Even elders Gongsun-ji and Yuanan couldn't solve this problem, but you solved it as soon as you stepped in. Your prestige in the faction has greatly increased. You're a hot topic now. Hearing this, Shen Lian's heart sank, feeling that Wan Yin was even more unfathomable. He smiled and asked, Miss Wan helped me so much, how should I repay you? It can't be considered helping you. Wan Yin waved her hand, the corners of her mouth curling into a mocking smile. You received my father's letter, right? Then you should know that the war between the Lin and Huang families is inevitable. The northern lands will soon face a chaotic situation where demons will run amok. Stockpiling resources is a must. And New Kuan is the biggest supplier of the Goo Garden in the northern lands. I naturally have to buy a lot of resources from you. Shen Lian's expression was slightly gloomy. This Wan Yin really knows everything. She even knows Wan San's secret letter to me. Shen Lian took a deep breath, still as calm as water. Wan Yin smiled and said, You probably haven't told Man Boyu about this matter. Maybe it is because of this terrible news, and Man Boya's attitude towards you, that you interfered, schemed against Gongsun-ji, tricked Man Boyu and came to me, am I right? Hearing this, Shen Lian was finally convinced. This woman was extraordinarily intelligent. Similar to Huang Rong, she could see through people's hearts, understand the world. Her logic was strong, her reasoning was meticulous, there were almost no secrets in front of her. Shen Lian's lips curled. He chuckled. Miss Wan is omniscient, admirable, admirable. Wan Yin raised her chin slightly, saying seriously, These are all things that I can think of. There are still things that I can't think of. For example, you racked your brains, and even used yourself as bait to lure Qi Lian out to kill you, just to foil Man Boya's plan? What is your motive for coming to me? Shen Lian calmly drank a mouthful of tea, playing with the teacup. I heard that the Goo Garden can obtain restricted grade resources. Can you tell me, how did you obtain them, and what is the method? Wan Yin straightened her body, sizing up Shen Lian seriously, then said, The method to obtain restricted grade resources is naturally through the aristocratic families and sects, only they have them. As for the method, rather than the method, it is better to say it is face. Face? Xin Lian's eyes widened. That's right, the Gu Garden's face. In the entire northern lands, who doesn't give the Gu Garden some face? Those aristocratic families and sects that do business with us sometimes take the initiative to send us some restricted grade resources, hoping that we can quickly prepare and deliver the goods they ordered. For example, a certain aristocratic family wants to refine Gu, and at a crucial moment, they urgently need some resources, but are unable to obtain them at the moment, so they will ask the Gu Garden for help. For this, they are even willing to pay restricted grade resources as a reward, Wan Yin said matter-of-factly. Xin Lian understood. This is all? This is all. Wan Yin, who had firmly grasped the initiative from the start, suddenly lost her momentum at this moment. Xin Lian turned the tables and suppressed her momentum instead. In that case, my motive for coming here is to teach you how to get rich, Xin Lian said plainly. What? Wan Yin was stunned, then laughed involuntarily. She was stunned. You want to teach me how to get rich? Wan Yin looked at Xin Lian with an expression that said, You are not joking with me. She really wanted to slap Xin Lian, to remind him that she was the daughter of the richest man in the northern lands. Her business talent was not inferior to Wan San. The person in the world who could teach her how to get rich had not been born yet. Xin Lian was especially serious. Please lend me something, let me explain it slowly. Wan Yin's curiosity was piqued. She wanted to see if Xin Lian was deliberately mystifying her. What do you want to borrow? The Gu Garden's transaction records, especially those of aristocratic families or sects, from the last 3 years, the more detailed the better, Xin Lian said solemnly. Wan Yin thought for a while, and did not feel that this was an excessive request. Those transaction records could not even be considered a secret. She nodded. All right, men. Not long later, a strong and handsome young man walked in. It was the man who often massaged Wan Yin's shoulders and legs. Wan Yin looked at him and said, Shuang Shi, human Facebook. Shuang Shi nodded lightly. Glancing at Xin Lian, a strange look flashed in her eyes. She took out a human Facebook and handed it over. Xin Lian quickly flipped open the human Facebook, his eyes shining brightly as he read through the lines one by one. This reading lasted for a total of 6 hours. Xin Lian's breathing was stable, he was fully focused, he was highly concentrated. After maintaining this for a long time, not only did he not show any signs of fatigue, he was even more excited. Wan Yin and Shuang Shi waited quietly. Wan Yin was very patient, but Shuang Shi gradually showed an impatient expression, constantly hinting at Wan Yin with her eyes. Wan Yin shook her head lightly, looking at the extremely serious Xin Lian. Her eyes were full of ripples. Whoosh! Xin Lian raised his head, his expression excited. My way to get rich is to use scarce resources to trade with aristocratic families or sects and exchange them for restricted resources. Shuang Shi heard this and immediately sneered. How is that possible? Don't joke. How much is a mere resource worth? How can it be compared with the restricted resources controlled by aristocratic families and sects? Xin Lian nodded. Yes. You. Shuang Shi opened her eyes wide, looking at Xin Lian as if looking at a lunatic. Wan Yin's eyes were shining and he asked curiously, Please explain in detail. There will always be a time when an aristocratic family or sect is in urgent need of a certain resource. If this resource happens to be scarce on the market at this time, then they will have to pay a huge price, and even have to use restricted resources to exchange for this resource. And if we hoard this resource in advance, we can use it to trade for a considerable amount of restricted resources, right? Xin Lian said with a smile. Shuang Shi laughed coldly. Wishful thinking. Let me ask you, how do you know that an aristocratic family or sect is in urgent need of this resource, and would hoard it in advance? Are you still worried about not being able to find the latest chapter? Amway Public Number. r/d/444 or search heat/degree web text. Chapter 110. Wan Yin also agreed. That's right. This requires an extremely huge information network to know the movements of the families and sects at all times, and the channels to obtain information must be all-pervasive. But the movements of the families and sects, especially when it concerns their own development or even the survival of their rations, are all highly confidential. It is almost impossible to obtain such level of insider information. Wan Yin's mind moved quickly, and he said decisively. Xinlian smiled lightly. Do you know the difference between data and information? Wan Yin was stunned. Shuangxi blurted out, What's the difference? Data is information, isn't information data? Xinlian shook his head. Data is an objective record, for example, these transaction records in the human Facebook. But information is data obtained after processing. This type of data is useful for achieving a certain goal. If you understand the difference, then you should know that these transaction records in the human Facebook are just a bunch of useless records. But after careful analysis and research, these messy and useless records can be turned into useful information, and from there, many secrets can be uncovered. Xinlian smiled confidently. Shuangxi fell into silence. Wan Yin's body shook, and she leaned forward with an excited expression. Please elaborate. Swoosh, 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 the human Facebook flipped to a page. Xinlian pointed at the records on the page and said, Take the Chang family as an example. The bloodline goo of the Chang family is the goo of forgetfulness. This goo can make people forget about their emotions, and they specialize in the vast power of Taishang forgetfulness. Forgotten emotion goo feeds on Granny Meng's soup. And Granny Meng's soup is brewed from Granny Meng's tea, which grows in the shade of a mountain with dense yin energy, and the water of river of forgetfulness deep underground. It can be said that Chang tribe's main demand is Granny Meng's tea and river of forgetfulness water, as well as products related to them. Hearing this, Shuangxi could not help but frown. So what? Chang tribe is located in Dark Ghost Mountain, and there is a large area of Granny Meng's tea growing in the shade of the mountain. Moreover, there is river of forgetfulness deep underground. They are self-reliant and do not lack the products they lack. Xinlian's mouth twitched. Take a closer look. Shuangxi stared at the human Facebook again and again. It was full of transaction records, and she could not make any sense of it. She said anxiously, The products that the Chang family bought are mainly related to Mengpa tea. Mengpa tea likes yin. The richer the yin qi of the earth, the better. Naturally, the fertilizers will be of yin and cold attribute. For example, sheep dung mixed with venom grass. The sheep dung must come from snow sheep from the extreme north. What else? Xinlian asked again. Shuangxi lost her temper after being questioned. She blushed and said, My eyes are bad and I can't see anything else. Don't talk in riddles. Tell me quickly. Xinlian chuckled. About 6 years ago, the Chang clan has been continuously seeking to purchase a product called the Three Life Stone. 6 years ago, they had never purchased a Three Life Stone. Shuangxi was completely puzzled. What does this mean? Xinlian ignored Shuangxi and looked at Wan Yin, asking with a smile, Lady Wan, can you tell? Wan Yin thought about it carefully and said, The reason why the Chang family is purchasing the Three Life Stone is because they have developed a goo refinement method that requires the assistance of the Three Life Stone. The demand is not high. It is not high, but the demand is increasing year by year. Last year, the Three Life Stone that the Chang family purchased was 3 times more than the year before, which is 20 times more than 6 years ago. This is a huge problem, Xinlian said in a playful tone. Shuangxi's mind could not work, she asked in confusion. What problem? Wan Yin said with some realization. The goo refinement method is very particular, the quantity used has to be precise and precise. There cannot be a huge fluctuation, the demand for the Three Life Stone is very abnormal. Xinlian nodded. There is another reason why it is abnormal. Look at the transaction time. Every year, the Chang family starts purchasing the 3-life stone at the start of autumn. It is a one-time purchase. It has been like this for the past 6 years. Let me ask you, if they are purchasing the 3-life stone for gu refinement, how can they estimate the quantity needed for a year, and why is the quantity increasing year by year? Hearing this detailed analysis, Shuangshi was silent. She could not refute it. Wan Yin's eyes brightened. Young Master Shen, what do you think? Please enlighten me. Shen Lian laughed lightly. I do not dare to enlighten you. Shen thinks that the reason why the Chang family is purchasing the 3-life stone is not for gu refinement, but for other uses. Oh, what use? Wan Yin thought about it carefully, but could not think of a reason. Shen Lian's gaze flashed. If Shen did not remember wrongly, 6 years ago, there was a small earthquake in the north. It seemed to have affected the area around Ghost Shadow Mountain. I speculate that this earthquake affected the Forgetfulness River's water below Ghost Shadow Mountain, causing the river water to change. Chang family had no choice but to use the 3-life stone to purify the Forgetfulness River's water. Moreover, judging from the quantity used, the Forgetfulness River's water is deteriorating more and more. The Chang family is in big trouble. Wan Yin and Shuangshi held their breath. They thought about this matter over and over again. In the end, they could not help but sigh in admiration at Shen Lian's analysis. It was meticulous and meticulous. It should be very close to the truth. Wan Yin squinted his eyes and smiled. Autumn is about to arrive. Chang family will definitely come to the Gu Garden to purchase the 3-life stone. And in the whole north, there are only 2 places that produce the 3-life stone. One of them is in New Kuan's territory, the other is in Black Tiger Stronghold's Black Tiger Mountain. I think, soon, Black Tiger's stronghold will cease to exist. That's right, soon, only New Kuan will have the 3-life stone. Shen Lian smiled lightly, but it sent chills down people's spines. Wan Yin, if I agree to cooperate, how will we split the profits? The Gu Garden will provide me with the transaction records, and help me negotiate the deal. As long as the deal is done, the other party will take out the restricted grade resource to exchange for it, and we will split the restricted grade resource in half. At the same time, the Gu Garden will pay a fee to fill up New Kuan's financial hole. Shen Lian suggested. The 3-life stone was New Kuan's product. The profits from selling it to the Gu Garden at market price would naturally be paid into the accounts. But in reality, Shen Lian was abusing his authority for personal gain, and manipulating things behind the scenes, using the 3-life stone to exchange for the restricted grade resource. He would not have the corresponding amount to report to the accounts. This required the Gu Garden's cooperation to pay this fee to conceal his scheme. Wan Yin calculated for a while. The restricted grade resource had a market price, but it was priceless. Any bit of it could be auctioned, and he could earn several times the amount. As long as such a deal was successful, he would only make a huge profit, and would not suffer a loss. As for Shen Lian's side, he had to ensure that the scarce resource would be stored in the Gu Garden's hands. This meant that he would have to risk his life to obtain or destroy the resource in other people's hands. Black Tiger Village would be his whetstone. In comparison, the Gu Garden would be able to earn the restricted grade resource without doing anything. Thus, Wan Yin did not think for too long, and stretched out his hand, saying, "Happy cooperation." Shen Lian also stretched out his hand. "Happy cooperation. Chang tribe is our first target. After the plan succeeds, we will talk about other targets and how to cooperate." Okay. After Shen Lian left, Wan Yin sat on the chair for a long time without speaking, and gradually, a deep smile appeared on his face. Shuangshi, who was at the side, was holding the human mask book, frowning as if he was thinking hard. After a long while, he sighed gloomily. If we can find some clues from these transaction records, and then use the Shen Lian's method to exchange for the resource, we can completely kick the Shen Lian away, and earn a lot without using him. Wan Yin shook his head. "You are wrong. Shen Lian frankly told us this method. He is not afraid that we will kick him away, because he knows we will not do that. Why? Let me ask you, if a certain resource is in the hands of all three parties, how can we gather it in the hands of one party? Buy it in bulk? What if they do not sell it, or they have a lot of it and cannot buy it all? Shuangshi was speechless. Wan Yin spread out his hands. The Gu Garden has its own rules. We cannot use violence to solve problems. This is the reason why we cannot kick the Shenlian away, but he can. He can cripple all three parties, gather the resources or even destroy them, and turn the excessive resources into scarce resources. Shuangshi's breathing stopped. After leaving the Gu Garden, Shenlian entered the carriage and sat down. At this point, his plan had been realized. To become strong quickly, he needed large amounts of restricted grade resources. With the Gu Garden, this problem could be solved. Successfully bewitched Bian Chanyu, obtained 200 bewitchment points. Successfully bewitched Gong Sunji, obtained 800 bewitchment points. Successfully bewitched Wan Yin, obtained 1,000 bewitchment points. In the next moment, a wonderful voice appeared in Shenlian's mind. He could not help but laugh when he heard it. His face was full of happiness. Bewitchment points are directly proportional to influence. Bian Chanyu, Gong Sunji, and Wan Yin are the three people with the most authority that I have bewitched so far. The bewitchment points I have obtained are also very generous. The higher a person's status and authority, the greater the influence of bewitching such a person, affecting many people and unknowingly changing the life trajectory of many people. The bewitchment points obtained would naturally be more. Black Tiger Stronghold's leader, Xiao Zhijiang, is also a famous Gu master in the pugilistic world. I heard he is proficient in wind manipulation, and is also a mid to long-range attack-type Gu master. Last time, when I fought Qilian, I exposed two of my weaknesses. I lack mid to long-range attack methods, and my Iron Jade Gu's defense is also insufficient. Before taking action against Black Tiger Stronghold, I need to first evolve the Iron Jade Gu. Shenlian thought as he slowly closed his eyes. Returning to New Kuan, Shenlian called for Wu Yenzong, secretly ordering him to do something. Wu Yenzong understood and immediately went to the red light district to secretly buy two young and beautiful women from the mortal world. Afterwards, Wu Yenzong only sent a servant to accompany the two women on a sightseeing tour. Several days later, they arrived at Black Tiger Mountain, bathing and playing in the river below Black Tiger Mountain. Black Tiger Stronghold occupied the mountain and raised a group of desperados. Once they saw two beautiful women bathing in the river, they all went crazy, snatching the two women back to the stronghold without saying anything. F***CK, Black Tiger Stronghold, they actually dare to snatch my two concubines. I will fight it out with them. Wu Yenzong was furious, roaring non-stop in New Kuan, attracting attention. The news quickly spread and New Kuan immediately went into an uproar. Wu Yenzong was a member of New Kuan. Snatching his concubines was equivalent to slapping New Kuan's face. This could not be tolerated. Still vexed over not being able to find the latest chapter? Enli public account r/d/444 or search heat/degree web text. Chapter 111. The crowd was furious. Their belligerence was unstoppable. While the entire incident was brewing, Shenlian reported the successful agreement with the Gu Garden to Manboy. An agreement, written in black and white, was placed on Manboy's desk. Manboy was full of smiles as he praised Shenlian verbally. Soon after, the results of the agreement were spread. As expected, the clan members were overjoyed and praised him. The price remains the same, but the supply has doubled. This means that the profits have doubled, and we've earned more money. As expected of Elder Shen, he's amazing. He turned the situation around the moment he appeared, and turned the tide. Elder Shen is really a man of the hour. He can stir up clouds and rain with one turn of his hand, and shock the heavens and earth. He can move unhindered, and his sword can cleanse the sky. Under the praises, Shen Lian's prestige rose accordingly. When the clan members talked about Shen Lian, they all gave him a thumbs up and all kinds of praises poured out. Sigh, comparisons are odious. When Gong Sunji heard the news, he could not help but twitch his mouth and say sarcastically. In order to negotiate with Wan Yin, he had racked his brains and talked his way out of it, but he had been met with setbacks everywhere. Shen Lian, on the other hand, had succeeded after just one negotiation, and the supply had doubled. This huge difference naturally made him very depressed. I haven't slept well for a few days, and I've lost a lot of hair. I've paid so much, who can see how hard I've worked? Gong Sunji was depressed. What made his balls hurt even more was that for this negotiation, he had paid an entire bottle of elemental water to Bian Chanyu. The price was too high, and in the end, all the credit went to Shen Lian. Shen Lian took advantage of me. Without my preparations, how could he have succeeded so easily? He even blamed me for tricking him, and scolded me for being heartless. Without my hard work, would he have succeeded? Gong Sunji mumbled as he drank his wine. On the other side, Bian Chanyu couldn't help but let out a long sigh when he heard the news. He looked deeply worried. Sigh, younger brother Shun. It seems that you didn't understand my warning, or perhaps you understood it but didn't listen to it. You didn't realize the seriousness of the matter. What would others think of you being in the limelight like this? How many geniuses have been destroyed by the envy and jealousy of others? You, have already become the target of many people's hatred, especially the one on the 5th floor. Regardless of the discussions outside, Shen Lian first went to the book collection pavilion and asked Deacon Gu Lang about the skin molting goo and water arrow goo. After that, he went to the accounting room and went into closed-door cultivation. In front of him were 2 brocade boxes and 2 white porcelain bottles. There are 3 spoils of war from killing a Qi Lian. One is the skin molting goo, one is the water arrow goo, and one is the corpse of a Mang demon. The skin molting goo can only be refined by molting-type demons, like snake demons, spider demons, centipede demons and others. Although humans can refine it, it cannot be used as the main goo, and can only be used as a support-type goo. The skin molting goo is the perfect partner for the snake scales goo. The goo master must first refine the snake scales goo and open up his aperture before he can give the skin molting goo a place to reside and use its ability. I have already opened up 3 apertures in my body: Grandmaster goo, Iron Jade goo, and Dodge goo. If I refine the snake scales goo, I will have 4 apertures. The burden is too great and cannot be used. Thinking of this, Shen Lian took out a scroll. On it was a goo refinement recipe. Snake scales goo, iron jade goo, purple sunlight, rootless water, these 4 can refine the snake jade goo. This fusion recipe only has less than a 10% chance of success, so use it carefully. The skin molting goo's ability is too strong, regenerating from heavy injuries. It is a pity to abandon it. Shen Lian was greatly moved by the skin molting goo. He was even willing to give up on the iron jade goo in order to refine the snake scales goo and skin molting goo, and still keep his 3 apertures. Of course, this was a bad idea. Fortunately, Shen Lian learned of this fusion recipe from Gu Lang and solved his dilemma. He was naturally overjoyed and immediately decided to refine the snake jade goo. The water arrow goo is a mid-range attack type goo and is suitable for water battles. In an environment without water, the water arrow goo's power is greatly reduced and is far inferior to the wind type goo. It has no value to me. Mid-range attack type goo. Shen Lian had already decided on the wind type goo, so he did not need to keep the water arrow goo with him. Thus, Shen Lian used the silver rank 3 water arrow goo to exchange for the bronze rank 10 snake scales goo, as well as the purple sunlight and rootless water. Among them, the purple sunlight was very precious. It was the first ray of dawn when the sun rises. It had to be continuously collected for 5 years, and after accumulating enough dawn light, The pure purple gas in the dawn light would be extracted and compressed into liquid form before being sealed in a porcelain bottle. Just this bottle of purple sunlight was worth as much as the silver rank 3 water arrow goo. If not for Shen Lian's huge contribution and Qian Sheng's intention to curry favor with him, he might not even be able to exchange 1 for 1, not to mention 3. Refining the snake jade goo and partnering it with the skin molting goo, my defense will rise to another level and I will also have the ability to regenerate. Shen Lian was excited and expectant. He took out a silver needle and pricked his finger, dripping his blood to feed the snake scales goo. This goo, like its name, resembled a snake's scale and was cold-blooded. As the blood dripped from his finger, the snake scales goo trembled in excitement and impatiently drank his blood. Life Shi Goo, it's your turn. Shen Lian did not care if this snake scales goo was fated with him, and directly summoned the life Shi Goo and forcefully tamed it. Sure enough, the snake scales goo could not withstand a single blow from the life Shi Goo, and was refined in an instant. At this time, the interface flashed and a message appeared. Snake Scales Goo, Bronze Rank 10, Special Effect, Snake Scales Protection, consume 1000 bewilderment points to refine the Snake Scales Goo, Iron Jade Goo, Purple Sunlight and Rootless Water into the Snake Jade Goo. Do you want to refine? It actually requires 1000 bewilderment points. Shen Lian's lips twitched, but his eyes narrowed. Refine. With a quick thought, the Iron Jade Goo came out of his body. The beetle-like Iron Jade Goo swallowed the Snake Scales Goo in one gulp. Shen Lian immediately opened the 2 bottles and poured them out. The Purple Sunlight and Rootless Water poured out, and the Iron Jade Goo opened its mouth and swallowed the 2 bottles of liquid clean. After that, the Iron Jade Goo stood still like a rock. This continued for 3 days, and with a series of cracking sounds, the Iron Jade Goo's surface cracked and a layer of stone skin peeled off. The beetle's legs were all petrified and shattered, leaving behind an oval-shaped shell. It was like a beautiful jade, crystal clear and beautiful. When he flipped it over to take a look, there was a lifelike sculpture of a python on the flat side. The python was even wriggling slightly and emitted a magical jade-like flowing light. At first glance, it seemed like a python was hiding under the turtle shell. This is the Snake Jade Goo. Shen Lian's eyes shone brightly. The success rate of less than 10% was not a problem in front of the bewilderment points. Failure was non-existent. Snake Jade Goo, Silver Rank 1, Special Effect, Snake Jade Skin Membrane, haha, keep! Shen Lian was overjoyed, and the Snake Jade Goo turned into a jade light and entered his body, entering the Iron Jade Goo's aperture. The Snake Jade Goo entered the aperture, and its body trembled slightly, as if it was breathing in and out, cleansing the snow-silver primeval essence in the aperture, gradually transforming it into another type of snow-silver primeval essence. Let's refine the skin molting goo. Shen Lian fed it with his blood, and the skin molting goo was like a piece of slippery fish skin. After drinking the blood, under the threat of the life-twisting goo, it refined it instantly without any difficulty. Skin molting goo, Silver Rank 4, Special Effect, Regeneration after molting. Every time the skin molting goo's regeneration ability is activated, it will consume 50% of the snow-silver primeval essence in the aperture. 50%. Shen Lian was shocked, and felt a headache coming on. I am not a snake demon, and cannot use the skin molting goo as my main advancement goo. It is normal that I cannot obtain the miraculous ability of continuous regeneration like the Qi Lian. Shen Lian sighed helplessly, feeling quite disappointed in his heart. Forget it, I will first upgrade the Snake Jade Goo to Silver Rank 5, and obtain a chance to regenerate. After deciding, Shen Lian stored the skin molting goo into the Snake Jade Goo's aperture, and then used 6,500 bewilderment points to upgrade the Snake Jade Goo to Silver Rank 5. This way, the remaining bewilderment points were 0, and were not enough to upgrade the Grandmaster Goo. Sigh, no matter how many bewilderment points I have, it is not enough. Shen Lian sighed and connected with the snake jade goo, extracting a trace of snow-silver primeval essence. That purified snow-silver primeval essence quickly spread to the surface of Shen Lian's body, and his skin started to change. Snake scales the size of a palm appeared, tightly connected to each other, covering every part of his body. The snake scales seemed to be condensed from sunlight and emitted a jade-like light, forming a thick layer of skin, giving Shen Lian an eerie sense of beauty. Shen Lian touched the snake jade skin membrane. It was cold and soft. He used the wind-chasing sword to cut the back of his hand, but there was no wound, not even a trace of a mark was left behind. Such a strong snake jade skin membrane, my defense has greatly increased. This was not the end. Even if his defense was broken, he could still undergo skin molting again. This was his life-saving trump card. Gang leader, that black tiger stronghold clearly knew they were my concubines, but still wanted to snatch them. They are simply not putting new Kuan in their eyes. Please help me. In the discussion hall, Wu Yenzong knelt in front of the higher-ups, his face full of anger, unable to restrain his anger. After a few days of propaganda, New Kuan knew that Black Tiger's stronghold had snatched Wu Yenzong's 2 concubines, and they all clamored to attack Black Tiger's stronghold and retaliate. After all, New Kuan was the #1 gang in the northern Jianghu. Not just anyone could provoke it. However, such a big thing was not something that could be done easily. It had to be approved by the gang leader. Man Boy frowned, glanced at the 8 elders, and asked, "What do you all think?" Everyone looked at Shen Lian. Wu Yenzong was his subordinate, so he had the most right to speak on this matter. This matter is related to New Kuan's reputation, and it is related to the happiness and dignity of the gang's cadres, so it is reasonable that we cannot ignore it. Gang leader, Wu Yenzong is my man. No matter what, I will seek justice for him. Moreover, that Black Wind stronghold has done all kinds of evil. They are extremely vicious. They should have been eradicated long ago. I request to lead everyone to attack Black Wind stronghold. Shen Lian stood up and slightly bowed, his expression serious and murderous. Still worried about not being able to find the latest chapter? Amway public number r/d/444 or search heat/degree web text. Chapter 112. Haha, Elder Shin's courage is unparalleled. Naturally, he is not afraid of Black Tiger stronghold's grassland. Man Boya clapped his hands and said, Xiao Zhejiang runs amok in Black Tiger Mountain, and his subordinates are all outlaws. They rape, burn, kill, plunder, and commit all kinds of evil. I have long had the intention to eliminate him. Shen Lian's mind moved. Man Boya's support for him was somewhat strange. Sure enough, Kong Yu raised his eyebrows and said, I once fought with Black Tiger Stronghold's leader, Xiao Zhejiang, and we fought to a draw. That was 4 years ago. At that time, I was Silver Rank 5, and he was Silver Rank 4. It can be seen that his battle strength is extraordinary. In these 4 years, I heard that he has become stronger. I guess that his main goo, Wind Blade Goo, has evolved to Silver Rank 5 or even 6. Its mid-range and long-range attacks are very powerful, and it is extremely good at attacking. It happens to be the nemesis of close combat experts. Bian Chanyu couldn't help but remind him, the biggest reason why Black Tiger Stronghold can run amok for so many years is because of its special geographical location. Black Tiger Mountain has Wind Howl Valley and Tiger Howl Cave. I heard that they are both unpredictable and dangerous places. Those who rashly enter will most likely die. Man Boy waved his hand and laughed. So what? Who can block Elder Shin's edge? Shen Lian smiled. In that case, I will also join in the fun. Kong Yu thought for a while and was really worried. His eyes flashed. Last time, I fought with Xiao Zhejiang to a draw. This time, I will fight 300 rounds with him to my heart's content. Man Boy shook his head and said, The situation in the north is a bit complicated now. It is not good to move too many people. Elder Shin's bravery is unparalleled. He alone is enough to deal with a mere Shao Zhejiang. He was hinting at the conflict between the Lin and Huang aristocratic families. He was using the potential chaos as an excuse, so Kong Yu couldn't argue anymore. Bian Chanyu frowned slightly. She naturally understood why Man Boyu had made such an arrangement. She couldn't help but feel uneasy. Chao Yuqing is blinded by greed, and Brother Shen is in the limelight too much. Both of them have become Man Boyu's eyesores. Bian Chanyu sighed inwardly. However, Shen Lian acted as if he didn't feel anything. He smiled and said, "Gang leader is wise. I will immediately set out to attack the Black Tiger stronghold. I swear that I will not return until I destroy the stronghold." Black Tiger Mountain, Black Tiger Stockade. The mountain range here stretched for more than 300 miles, with undulating peak. The winding mountains seemed to compete for supremacy, each taller than the previous one. Looking from the side, it looked like the back of a fierce tiger. The tallest peak was the Black Tiger Mountain. It towered into the clouds, like a soaring azure dragon. There was a bandit stronghold on Black Tiger Mountain. Using local materials to build a fortress, it was impregnable like a fortress made of copper and iron. Taking advantage of the natural advantages, it was even easier to defend and harder to attack. The so-called natural advantages referred to the Howling Wind Valley and the Howling Tiger Cave. The Howling Wind Valley was located in front of the bandit stronghold. It was a canyon where strong winds never stopped all year round, as if there were ferocious beasts roaring. Therefore, it was named the Howling Wind Valley. It was the only way to reach the bandit stronghold. As for the Howling Tiger Cave, it was located behind the bandit stronghold. The terrain there was complicated, and strange winds were wild. It was like a tiger's mouth. If someone who wasn't familiar with the environment barged in, it would be like sending himself into the tiger's mouth, listening to the divine might of the tiger's roar and feeling the sharpness of the tiger's teeth. If the bandit stronghold was breached, the people in the stronghold would retreat to the Howling Tiger Cave and hide. In history, the Black Tiger stronghold has been breached 3 times. When Shao Zhejiang saw that the situation was not good, he hid in the Howling Tiger Cave and didn't come out. The others couldn't do anything to him. This method has been tested time and time again, and it allowed him to escape 3 calamities. Wu Yenzong stood beside him and looked at the Howling Wind Valley in the distance. Shen Lian brought him and 800 martial artists to attack the Black Tiger stronghold this time. The 800 martial artists were strong and mighty. They held sabers and swords, and their murderous aura soared to the sky. Shen Lian nodded and glanced back at the 800 martial artists. He said in a clear voice, "Wu Yenzong and I will go first. You all follow the plan and wait for our signal before moving." "Yes." The 800 martial artists bowed their heads and cupped their hands together. Their expressions were reverent and solemn. "Let's go." Shen Lian stepped into the Howling Wind Valley. What came into view was a nearly straight valley about 30 meters wide. There were 2 sides of the valley, and they were slanted inwards, forming the shape of a bowl. The ground was full of weathered gravel. As soon as Shen Lian entered the valley, his hair was blown back and fluttered wildly behind his head. The wind roared like thunder, and it was deafening. "This wind is at least level 7 or 8. Shen Lian glanced at Wu Yenzong next to him. He couldn't open his eyes because of the wind, and his body was also blown back. It was obvious how strong the wind was. "Don't follow us if you can't handle it," Shen Lian said indifferently. As soon as the words left his mouth, they were blown away by the wind. Wu Yenzong didn't hear what he said at all. Shen Lian grabbed Wu Yenzong and ran wildly. The Howling Wind Valley was about 3 miles long. The further they went, the stronger the wind became. Near the end, the wind even reached level 11. The wind was fierce, and the wind was like a knife. The Howling Wind Valley. Ordinary people can't pass through it. Shen Lian also relied on his strong body to force his way through. At the end of the valley, there was a huge wind tunnel. The wind blew out of the tunnel and into the valley. Beside the wind tunnel, there was a man-made stone road leading to the top of the mountain. When one looked up, one could see a corner of the camp fortress. Xinlian jumped onto the cobblestone road. As soon as he left the front of the wind tunnel, the wind that was blowing around him disappeared in an instant. "Who is it?" The 4 bandits rushed over in a panic. They looked at Xinlian and Wu Yenzong, whose clothes and hair were messed up by the wind. The 4 of them were inexplicably shocked. Their eyes were wide open. It must be known that the wind in the Howling Wind Valley was incessant. There was no need to set up any defenses. Many people retreated in the face of difficulties. Only at dawn and in the evening would the wind be slightly weaker. The bandits in the camp could only enter and exit the Howling Wind Valley during these 2 short periods of time. They couldn't pass at all during other times. It was noon, the time when the wind was the strongest. How did these 2 people get through the Howling Wind Valley? Their hearts were filled with great doubt and shock. Xinlian let go of Wu Yenzong. Shua. He unsheathed his chasing wind sword and crossed it left and right. With a flash of sword light, 2 heads flew up and blood splattered on the ground. The remaining 2 bandits felt their blood run cold. Xinlian suddenly approached them and pinned them to the ground with one hand. Then, he threw one of the bandits to Wu Yenzong and said, "You and I will interrogate separately. Whoever lies will die first." Wu Yenzong nodded, picked up the bandit who was scared half to death, and walked to the side. Xinlian picked up the bandit in front of him and asked like an eagle catching a chick, "Is Xiao Zhijiang in the camp?" "Yes, master, he's here," the bandit replied with trepidation. "Where did you mine the 3-life stone?" "3-life stone?" The bandit blinked. "In the Tiger Roar cave behind the camp." Xinlian muttered to himself for a moment. He glanced at the wind tunnel next to him and asked, "What's going on with this wind tunnel? Where does such strong wind come from?" The bandit hurriedly said, "This wind tunnel is connected to the Tiger Roar cave. The wind comes from the Tiger Roar cave. It's. Speaking of this, the bandit's expression was a little strange. "What is it?" Xinlian glared at him. "What else haven't you told me? Tell me." The bandit was terrified and his face turned pale. I heard people say in private that there is a monster sleeping in the Tiger Roar cave. The wind comes from the monster when it breathes." "Monster?" Xinlian frowned. "What's the monster called?" "It seems to be called Wind Demon." "Yes, it's Wind Demon." When the bandit mentioned the monster's name, his scalp went numb. "It's actually Wind Demon." Xinlian was slightly stunned and then clicked his tongue. Li Su had specially reported to him about Wind Demon. Wind Demon comes out to eat once every 9 years. Every time, it comes to the territory under my jurisdiction to eat. I never expected that Wind Demon's lair is in the Tiger Roar cave of Black Tiger Mountain. The unexpected thing was that Wind Demon's lair was actually the headquarters of Black Tiger Stockade Village. Who would believe that a monster lived next to a human? Xiao Zhijiang, I didn't expect you to collude with a monster and cover up Wind Demon's hiding place. Xinlian thought for a moment and figured out the whole story. He smiled coldly, and a cold light reflected in his eyes. At this time, Wu Yenzong came back with another bandit and reported, "Elder, he said that the 3-life stone is in the Tiger Roar cave. This kid also scared me by saying that there is a monster in the Tiger Roar cave. Except for Stockade Village Master Xiao Zhijiang, other people who trespass in the Tiger Roar cave will definitely die." Xinlian didn't comment and said coldly, "He dares to threaten you. Arrogant man, kill him." Wu Yenzong directly twisted the bandit's neck. "Two heroes, please don't kill me." The bandit in Xinlian's hands was so scared that he wet his pants. He was sweating profusely and trembling like a fallen leaf in the autumn wind. "Don't worry, I won't kill you. Go and tell Xiao Zhijiang that Elder Nu Kuan, Xinlian, has come to visit and ask him who gave him the courage to steal my subordinate's concubine." Xinlian threw the bandit on the ground. Yes, I'll go and report." The bandits scrambled and ran up the mountain in terror. Report! A shout came from outside Stockade Village Master's room. Inside the room, Xiao Zhijiang was drinking and having fun with two women who were not as beautiful. These two women were naturally Wu Yenzong's concubines who had been captured. What's the matter? Xiao Zhijiang was having fun and didn't like to be disturbed, so he was slightly impatient. There are two people outside who claim to be Nu Kuan, Xinlian. They kill anyone they see and want to visit Stockade Village Master to ask about the matter of stealing their concubine. The bandit shouted from inside the room, his voice full of horror. Nu Kuan, Xinlian. Xiao Zhijiang's heart thumped and he muttered, "Could it be that Xinlian who has been in the limelight recently? The old demon, the Qi Lian, they all fell into the hands of this person. Why did he come to find me? When did I steal his concubine? Humph, they don't come with good intentions." Xiao Zhijiang sensed that something was wrong and quickly got up to put on his clothes. He waved at the two women and said, "Get out." The two women quickly picked up their clothes and went out. Xiao Zhijiang immediately walked in front of the incense table and turned one of the candlesticks. Immediately, he heard a rumbling sound. A door in the wall opened, revealing a pitch-black corridor. He didn't know where it led, but immediately, a howling cold wind swept out. "Master, there are masters trespassing in Black Tiger Stockade Village." After introducing the Xinlian situation, he rushed to the corridor behind the door in the wall. After he finished speaking, he waited quietly for a moment. A strong wind surged in the corridor, and a person's voice came from the wind. Chapter 113. After a while, the rumbling of drums came from the camp on the mountain. The bandit ran back and shouted, "Masters, the chief invites you in." Xinlian and Wu Yenzong walked up the road. Not long after, 2 rows of bandits appeared in front of them, holding knives. At the end of the road was the bandit stronghold's gate, which was already open. There were many bandits above the gate. They stood beside 6 mechanical crossbows and looked down coldly. Xinlian calmly entered the stronghold. As soon as he looked up, he saw a spacious courtyard that led straight to a main hall. "Elder, that person is Xiao Zhijiang." Wu Yenzong raised his head slightly. His pupils constricted as he stared at the burly man standing at the door of the main hall. This man was extremely powerful. His eyes were as malicious as a snake's. His robe only revealed half of his shoulder. There were indigo tattoos on his shoulder and chest, which seemed to be a ferocious tiger's head. Xinlian narrowed his eyes slightly. Xiao Zhijiang also stared at them at this moment. Xinlian was in front, and Wu Yenzong was slightly behind. He instantly concluded that the person walking in front must be Xinlian. Sure enough, he was as young, promising, handsome, and mighty as the rumors said. Xiao Zhijiang laughed and cupped his hands. "Black Tiger Stronghold welcomes Nu Kuan, Elder Xin. I've heard a lot about you." Xinlian stopped in front of the main hall and said with a faint smile, "Chief Xiao is famous in the Jianghu. Seeing you in person is better than hearing about you 100 times. Please take a seat in the hall." Xiao Zhijiang raised his hand, then turned around and walked to the chief's throne and sat down. "Wait for me outside the hall." Xinlian glanced at Wu Yenzong. The latter nodded, then he entered the hall. A table had already been set up on the right side of the center, but Xinlian didn't sit down. He looked at Xiao Zhijiang coldly. The Black Tiger Stockade Village and Nu Kuan have always minded their own business. The last time we had a conflict was 4 years ago. Vice Chieftain Kong and I had a fight because of a small misunderstanding. It can be said that no discord, no concord. After that, I sent a big gift to Nu Kuan to reconcile. Since then, there has been no conflict between us. But I don't know what the Black Tiger Stockade Village has done to offend Elder Xin and make you so angry? Xiao Zhijiang shook his wine glass and said calmly. "It's not about offending or not offending," Xinlian laughed and said coldly. "I just don't like your Black Tiger Stockade Village. Can't I do that?" falling out with him the moment he entered? He didn't even bother to exchange pleasantries and went straight to pulling aggro. Xiao Zhijiang was stunned for a moment before boundless anger crept onto his face. Arrogant brat! How dare you look down on me like this? Xiao Zhijiang, whose breathing was stagnant, suddenly stood up and threw his wine glass. He shouted sternly, "Do you think my Black Tiger Stockade village is easy to bully? Even if your gang leader, Man Boyu, came in person, he wouldn't dare to talk nonsense to me, Xiao Zhijiang." Xinlian crooked the corner of his mouth and said domineeringly, "Stop talking nonsense. Let's see who's the real deal. Today, I'll make the Black Tiger Stockade village disappear from the world." "You're so arrogant." Xiao Zhijiang snorted angrily and smiled grimly. "You're young and arrogant. Maybe you don't know why the Black Tiger Stockade village can stand for so long. Since you're so eager to die, I'll fulfill your wish." He kicked the seat away. In the next moment there was a rumbling sound. The wall behind Xiao Zhijiang opened to both sides, revealing a dark corridor. Then, a violent wind gushed out of the corridor. It was at least level 10, blowing the tables and chairs and stirring up dust. Xinlian's robe and long hair suddenly fluttered behind him. Xiao Zhijiang, who was standing in the wind, was like a fish in the water. The wind flowed past him naturally, and the corners of his clothes swayed slightly. Almost at the same moment when the violent wind swept out of the door, the bandits on the city gate seemed to have received a signal. They quickly adjusted the aim of their mechanical crossbows and shot arrows at Xinlian's back. "Elder, be careful!" Wu Yenzong, who was guarding the door, shouted angrily. He raised his hands and bronze light gushed out of his body, forming a light shield in front of him. It was taller than his entire body and almost blocked the entire door. Boom, boom, boom. The arrows that rained down on the circular light shield were all bounced off. The light shield rippled and quickly stabilized. This was Wu Yenzong's main gu, called Bronze Light Gu. It was a shield defense type gu. This gu could form a bronze light shield and form a strong defense. It could protect the gu master from physical attacks and even weaken mental attacks to a certain extent. The bronze light gu chose Wu Yenzong. From this, it could be seen that he was extremely insecure and had the heart to rely on the strong. But once he obtained enough security, he would become a villain and even have thoughts of rebelling. "Elder, I will block these arrows. You focus on dealing with Xiao Zhijiang," Wu Yenzong said in a deep voice. Obviously, he was now wholeheartedly relying on Xinlian and had no other intentions. Xinlian tilted his head and looked outside, then coldly stared at Xiao Zhijiang. "Ha ha ha, Xinlian, let me tell you a piece of bad news. My wind edge gu gets stronger when it encounters wind. 4 years ago, I fought with you in a restaurant. There was no wind around, and Kong, you couldn't do anything to me. Today, under the strong wind, I am invincible. Aren't you a famous genius? I, Xiao Zhijiang, love to kill geniuses. I will cut you into pieces and make a name for myself." Xiao Zhijiang revealed a ferocious expression. He raised his hand and immediately 3 crescent-shaped wind blades condensed in front of him. Each wind blade was 1 meter long. "Go!" Following Xiao Zhijiang's cold shout, the 3 biting cold wind blades formed a triangle and swept towards Xinlian. Snake Jade Gu? Snake Jade Skin Membrane. Xinlian had long wanted to test the defensive ability of the Snake Jade Gu. In an instant, light surged around his body and palm-sized snake scales appeared. They intertwined and covered the surface of his body, forming a thick membrane that faintly emitted a multicolored light. In the next moment, the wind blade hit his chest and exploded. Boom, 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 3 consecutive explosions sounded. The 3 wind blades intertwined and all hit his chest, exploding into white smoke. The strong wind quickly blew away the white smoke. Xiao Zhijiang's pupils shrunk and he couldn't help but be stunned. He saw that Xinlian was still standing far away without moving. His clothes were tattered, but his exposed chest was shining brightly. Not to mention blood, there wasn't even a single wound. Xiao Zhijiang's expression changed and his breathing stagnated. How is this possible? My wind blade Gu is silver rank 6. With the help of the strong wind, its attack is even stronger and fiercer. Why can't it break his defense? Xiao Zhijiang was dumbfounded and asked in astonishment, "What kind of defensive Gu is this?" "Idiot, do you think I will tell you?" Xinlian slightly bent his knees and rushed forward. The rank 10 gale couldn't stop him at all. He instantly arrived in front of Xiao Zhijiang and thrust his sword. Xiao Zhijiang's hair stood on end. "Wind wall, rise." The gale around him suddenly gathered and wrapped around him, forming an azure wind wall to protect him. Wind-chasing sword stabbed into the wind wall as if it had stabbed into sand. Its momentum immediately slowed down and its direction also changed. Block. Xiao Zhijiang didn't even think and pushed his hands forward. The azure wind wall rolled towards Xinlian like a blanket. He turned around and fled, rushing into the tunnel. "Where do you think you are going?" Xinlian shook his wind-chasing sword and sword light flashed. Formless sword chi shot out in all directions and the wind wall in front of him was full of holes. After a moment, the wind wall collapsed and dissipated. Then, he also rushed into the tunnel. The tunnel was pitch black and the gale was even stronger. However, Xinlian had the Calamity Avatar. Under his divine sense, everything around him was extremely clear and there were no secrets to speak of. Xiao Zhijiang ran very fast and had already opened up a distance of 50 meters. He seemed to have a special method to see Xinlian chasing after him and quickly waved his hands and feet, releasing wind blades one after another. Break! Xinlian rushed forward and waved his sword. His long sword was like the moonlight pouring down in torrents. The sword light was dazzling, and it shattered the wind blades one after another. Continuous roars. The two people fought fiercely in the tunnel. Wind blades and sword chi crisscrossed. After a while, Xinlian gradually approached Xiao Zhijiang. "Haha, Xinlian, you've been fooled. You shouldn't have chased in." Xiao Zhijiang suddenly stopped. He raised his hand and took out a charred broadsword from nowhere. He pointed it at Xinlian, who was constantly approaching him. With a whoosh, the charred broadsword suddenly burst into flames and emitted raging flames. The entire tunnel was illuminated as bright as day, and the surrounding temperature rapidly rose. "Take my roaring flame broadsword. I'll burn you to death!" Xiao Zhijiang roared. The charred broadsword suddenly spewed out a pillar of fire more than 30 meters long. The pillar of fire took the shape of a broadsword and the flames were red and yellow. It almost sprayed out in a straight line. In the tunnel with limited space, the wind carried the huge broadsword pillar of fire that was as thick as a bucket and formed a torrential power. The raging flames burst out and attacked. Demon weapon. The flaming broadsword was undoubtedly a demon weapon. The murderous intent in Xinlian's eyes intensified. He raised the chasing wind sword and burst out a silver-white sword chi. It flashed and blasted toward the rock wall at the top of the tunnel. Under the impact of the powerful sword chi, the rock wall cracked. Large pieces of gravel fell down and smashed toward Xiao Zhijiang and the surging broadsword pillar of fire. At the same time, Xinlian kicked his legs and retreated rapidly. With the help of the wind, his speed was extremely fast. He quickly retreated into the main hall. Whoosh! A cluster of flames emerged with the wind, but its power had been greatly weakened and could not pose any threat. A miserable cry came from the tunnel. When the flames were extinguished, Xinlian rushed into the tunnel and soon came to the ruins filled with smoke and dust. The gravel had filled half of the tunnel. A few clusters of flames were still burning, scorching the rock wall slightly. "Master, save me!" Under the gravel, there was a painful groan. Xinlian scanned with his divine sense and instantly found that half of his leg was exposed outside the gravel. The rest of his body was crushed by the gravel and blood flowed out. "Come out!" Xinlian grabbed Xiao Zhijiang's ankle and pulled him out with a jerk. This guy's head was bleeding, and there was even a dent in the top of his head. One of his arms was broken, and a few of his ribs seemed to be broken. He was almost dead. Master, master! Xiao Zhijiang was delirious and kept calling out. No one can save you from your deathbed struggle. Xin Lian picked up the crimson flame broadsword that had fallen to the side. His eyebrows flickered, and he smiled with satisfaction. Oh, are you sure no one can save him? Almost in the next moment, Xin Lian's whole body tightened, and every hair on his body stood on end. A fleeting voice came from afar and suddenly sounded in his ears like a ghost. It was as if someone was whispering in his ears. Chapter 114. The situation suddenly changed. A strange wind swept Xiao Zhijiang up and flew into the depths of the tunnel. Xin Lian put away the crimson flame saber and chased after him. After a while, he came to the end of the tunnel and suddenly broke into a room that looked like a secret chamber. This room was connected to 8 tunnels. The tunnel he had just walked through was only one of them. Xiao Zhijiang's whereabouts were unknown. He could be in any of the other 7 tunnels. At this time, the wind stopped. The terrifying wind disappeared as if it had never appeared. The 8 dark passageways were unusually quiet and cold. Xin Lian narrowed his eyes slightly. It's true that the wind leaves no trace. He lost Xiao Zhijiang and couldn't determine which tunnel the strange wind had taken Xiao Zhijiang to. Based on my feelings, Xin Lian looked around and didn't hesitate too much. He chose a tunnel and rushed in. This tunnel made him feel even colder. Crack, crack, crack. After running for a dozen meters, Xin Lian suddenly heard a strange sound under his feet. When he scanned with his divine sense, his expression changed drastically. There were skeletons everywhere. They were all human skeletons, and there were countless of them. The white bones seemed to have been completely weathered and shattered with one step. The more Xin Lian walked forward, the more skeletons there were. Some of the skeletons were very small and probably belonged to children. They were piled together with the skeletons of adults. Whoosh whoosh, whoosh whoosh. At this time, a strange wind blew. The strange wind blew through the skeletons, shuttled through the empty eyes of the human skulls, and swept across Xin Lian's body. Wind of resentment and anger. The wind carried a mournful voice. Suddenly, all the blood in Xin Lian's body flowed backward, and his emotions surged. Resentment and anger almost drove him crazy. Resentment and anger are the actions of the weak. I am not a weak person. Xin Lian's eyes narrowed. The dragon heart venomous insect throbbed, and his blood flowed smoothly through his body. His mighty aura spread around, and his emotions gradually calmed down. It seems that I'm on the right path. Continue forward, charge. Xin Lian smiled coldly and ran forward. After a while, another strange wind blew. The wind was so warm that people couldn't help but want to yawn and sleep. Taste the wind of indolence. A woman was shrieking in the wind. Lazy? In front of my powerful will, you can't even stand a single blow. Xin Lian was a martial arts madman. His willpower was as firm as a rock, unshakable. He just shook his head and charged forward again. Raging hurricane. In the next moment, a ferocious hurricane swept over. Xin Lian was not afraid at all. He pointed his wind-chasing sword forward, and a 3-inch flying sword shot out, striking into the hurricane. With a loud bang, the hurricane collapsed and dispersed. Xin Lian was unstoppable, and he closed in step by step. Dizzying wind. Freezing wind. Fiery wind. Whether it was the real wind or the void wind, it could not do anything to Xin Lian. With his strong body and the snake jade venomous insect's defense, he was able to resist all kinds of wind-type attack. Not long after, he rushed out of the tunnel and broke into a hall. About 10 feet away, in the flickering fire, a young woman was sitting on a skeleton throne. She was tall and had exquisite facial features. Her beauty was impeccable. Her eyes were as cold as ice, her eyebrows were curved like crescent moons, and her skin was fair and flawless, revealing a faint pink. Her thin lips were as delicate and tender as rose petals, as if she was a peerless beauty who had walked out of an ancient painting. At first glance, people would mistakenly think that they were looking at an otherworldly fairy. This was naturally the Wind Demon. Wind Demon looked at Shen Lian indifferently, and Shen Lian also looked at her. Someone is coming. Is she here to save us? Help! Hero, please save us. On the other side of the hall, there was a prison cell with many people inside. Shen Lian's eyes narrowed. He roughly counted that there were at least 60 people, including men, women, and children. Wind Demon glanced at the prison cell, and suddenly everyone was silent. Master Xiao Zhijiang, who was lying in front of Wind Demon, seemed to have grasped the last life-saving straw. As soon as he saw Shen Lian, his dim and unfocused eyes lit up, and his expression became crazy. His face was full of resentment. Master, quickly kill Shen Lian. Look at what he has done to me. Xiao Zhijiang spat out blood and shouted weakly, with a gloomy and ferocious smile on his face. Shut up, you useless piece of trash! Wind Demon glanced at Xiao Zhijiang indifferently, and then stared coldly at Shen Lian. Answer me, are you here for me? Don't answer. Don't answer. Don't answer. In the prison cell, someone suddenly shouted crazily. What are you shouting for? If anyone dares to shout again, I will eat him tonight. Wind Demon glared at the prison cell with murderous intent. The crazy person trembled and shrank in the corner, still muttering those words. Wind Demon turned his head and stared at Shen Lian, saying coldly, Did you break into the Black Tiger Stockade just to find trouble with Xiao Zhijiang, or are you here for me? Shen Lian glanced at the prison cell, and his mind moved. He raised his chin and said coldly, Is this important? I found your hiding place and the unspeakable secret between you and Xiao Zhijiang. You won't allow me to leave alive, will you? Wind Demon shook his head and said, I am the Wind of Freedom, and I don't like to settle down. The world is vast, and I can come and go as I please. The reason why I stayed in the Black Tiger Mountain is that the Black Tiger Cave is a treasured place for hiding wind and gathering qi, which helps me grow and evolve. Counting the days, I've been cultivating here for 36 years. It's time for me to leave. As for Xiao Zhijiang, 36 years ago, I came to the Black Tiger Mountain and slaughtered the entire stockade. Xiao Zhijiang was just a small fry at that time. He begged me not to kill him and was willing to serve me as his master. He promised that he would capture many people to show filial piety to me in the future, so I spared his life. Over the years, he has offered me hundreds of livestock every year, and I have also helped him improve his strength. He has enjoyed all the glory and wealth we both need. But whether he lives or dies in the future has nothing to do with me. So, you didn't find my hiding place, nor did you find any unspeakable secret. Whether you came for me or not, it decided whether I should kill you or not. Shen Lian said domineeringly, So, you are sure that you can kill me at any time. Since you have turned into a human form, I will teach you a lesson. Don't be too confident, especially in front of me. Interesting, I haven't met such an arrogant beast like you for a long time. Wind Demon sneered, Don't be complacent. The wind that attacked you just now was just a small matter, and you seem to have not realized a very cruel fact until now. Oh, tell me about it. My original form is the wind, invisible and traceless. I can't be hurt, let alone killed. I am an immortal existence, and you are made of flesh and blood. I can kill you with a breath. Wind Demon said indifferently. Shen Lian raised his eyebrows and sneered. My life is very tough. No matter how heavy your breath is, it can't kill me. Humph, you won't cry until you see the coffin. Then I will let you see the power of the wind of corrosion. Wind Demon smiled coldly, stood up, and blew a breath toward Xiao Zhijiang, who was lying on the ground. Master, no. Xiao Zhijiang was terrified. When the breath came, he felt that it was just a warm wind, but his body quickly dried up. His flesh and blood disappeared and his bones melted. Soon, he turned into a pool of thick water. Seeing this scene, Shunlian couldn't help but tighten his body. The wind of corrosion is just one of my abilities. I am Wind Demon, and I control all the wind in the world. I have thousands of ways to kill people. It's as easy as turning my hand. Wind Demon said calmly, "Answer me, do you really want to be my enemy? Such a powerful wind, why didn't you use it just now?" Shunlian's eyes flashed, but he was as calm as water. "Let me guess, the wind of corrosion is a close-range attack. You have to get close to me, right?" "Ridiculous. I am the wind, who can be faster than me?" Wind Demon suddenly got up from the skeleton throne, turning into a series of afterimages and approaching. Shunlian jumped away directly, raised his sword, and slashed horizontally. The invisible sword chi swept past Wind Demon's waist and flew to the distance. Wind Demon's body was separated from the top and bottom, but it reunited in the next moment. She was unscathed and chased again. Physical attacks are ineffective? Shunlian didn't believe it. The wind-chasing sword immediately shook out a mysterious sword flower. The sword flower exploded in midair, turning into a rain of bullets that swept toward Wind Demon. Puff, puff, puff. Wind Demon was instantly riddled with holes. Even her head was pierced through by the rain of bullets. She didn't look like a human anymore. Very powerful sword technique. If other demons were here, they would have been covered with wounds. The old demon and Qilian can die in your hands. Wind Demon shook her delicate body, and all the holes on her body disappeared in an instant. She returned to her original appearance as if nothing had happened. Tricky. I still have a trump card that can definitely hurt her. Should I use it? Shunlian thought to himself. He stared coldly at Wind Demon as his thoughts flashed. You are at your wit's end. Wind Demon sneered. Answer me, did you come alone or with other companions? Take a guess. Shunlian's body surged with light, and the snake jade membrane emerged. He decided to use another killer move. He rushed out and rushed toward Wind Demon. You are courting death. Wind Demon was overjoyed. The man and the demon rushed at each other, and Wind Demon immediately spewed out the wind of corrosion. Chi chi chi. In an instant, the snake jade membrane flashed violently, and a large part of it was corroded and melted. Boundless pain came. What a powerful wind of corrosion. The snake jade membrane won't last long. Shunlian was shocked. His aura suddenly soared, and the disaster Dharma idol appeared above his head. It was a behemoth that was half scorpion and half snake. Its whole body was wrapped in black flames. The flames burned fiercely, sweeping the world and roaring in the universe. Now the disaster Dharma idol is not complete. It can't leave the body. It can only attack at close range. Shunlian gritted his teeth and endured the pain. The disaster Dharma idol looked down at Wind Demon and spewed out a beam of destructive black flames. It burned the sky and boiled the sea and burned the world. It directly penetrated Wind Demon's forehead. Disaster Dharma idol, divine soul attack. Any monster, no matter whether it was tangible or intangible, could only become a monster after it had gained sentience. This meant that all monsters had souls. Soul attacks could harm monsters. Sure enough, Wind Demon flew out with a scream as if she had been hit hard. Blood spurted out of her mouth. Are you still worried about not being able to find the latest chapter? Amway public number r/d/444 or searchheat/degree web text. Chapter 115. Like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, Wind Demon suddenly jumped into the air. Wind Demon, die. Shunlian, who was full of murderous intent, opened his sleeve, and then the sky-devouring sword appeared in his hand. The sky-devouring sword rapidly expanded and continued to grow. Suddenly, it became more than 30 feet long. There was twisted black thunder rolling and bursting out of the sword. It stabbed straight, caught up with Wind Demon, and pierced through her chest. Crackle! The black thunder arc raged in Wind Demon's body. The destructive power was extremely violent. The wound on Wind Demon's chest continued to expand, forming a charred black hole. The sky-devouring sword with Wind Demon in it smashed down and shrank. Xun Lian flew over, and the Dharma idol of disaster pounced on her, wanting to give her another stab. Damn beast! Wind Demon's eyes were wide open. She shook her body and turned into a whirlwind. Whistling, she escaped from the sky-devouring sword. The whirlwind rushed into the tunnel. She actually ran away. Xunlian, just you wait. I will take revenge for this. In the tunnel, there was a mournful and resentful roar. Xunlian squinted coldly, and the corners of his mouth were full of disdain. The next time we meet, I will be stronger. Xunlian was confident that he could defeat Wind Demon, but the Dharma idol of disaster had been exposed in front of her. He didn't know if she had seen it or even recognized the Dharma idol of disaster. This was also the reason why Xunlian hesitated to use this trump card before. Hey, what's that? While thinking, Xunlian suddenly found a ring left behind where Xiao Zhijiang died. The corrosive wind had melted his body and clothes, but this thing was not destroyed. It must be a treasure. Xunlian's eyebrows flickered. He walked over and picked it up. Without looking at it carefully, he put it in his bag and then walked to the cell. Hero, help! When the imprisoned people saw Xunlian beat Wind Demon away, their desperate eyes suddenly regained vitality, and they all cheered. Don't worry, I'll let you out right away. With a flash of sword light, the iron chain broke and fell to the ground. The cell door immediately opened. Thank you for saving our lives, Hero. Hero, you're the best. Hero, you've saved both our lives. If you'd arrived a day earlier, my child's father. Those who were released were crying tears of joy. Some were dancing, some were crying, and some were kneeling in front of the Xunlian, kowtowing incessantly. Get up, I've chased the Wind Demon away. You're safe and free. Come with me, Xunlian said with a smile. He glanced at the crazy man who was still curled up in the corner. He was as thin as a match and had lost his spirit. Only he had not realized that he had been saved. You too, carry that person out. We'll all go out together, Xunlian ordered. Then, he led the 50 to 60 people through the tunnel and returned to the main hall of the Black Tiger Stockade. Wu Yenzong stood guard in front of the gate. The city gate continued to release crossbow bolts, and more than 100 bandits gathered in front of the gate, attacking the light shield with knives. Wu Yenzong, who focused on defense and not on offense, could not do anything to the bandits, but the bandits could not hurt him either. They could not even break through the gate. They were in a deadlock. Wu Yenzong, what are you waiting for? Release the signal, Xunlian said lightly. Wu Yenzong turned around and was pleasantly surprised. He knew that the elder was invincible and Xiao Zhijiang was no match for him. Yes. Wu Yenzong's face flashed with great awe. He immediately took out a firework and raised it to the sky. With a whoosh, a dazzling light shot into the sky and exploded. Outside the Wind Howl Valley, the 800 martial artists who were hiding suddenly looked up at the sky. The three-colored firework was dazzling in the sky. The signal is here. Kill. Everyone rushed into the Wind Howl Valley with swords and sabers. The wind in the valley strangely disappeared, so they were naturally unimpeded. After a while, they arrived in front of the bandit stockade's gate. At the same time, Xunlian and Wu Yenzong were killing their way out of the gate. Mere mortal bandits were simply not a match for the Gu masters and were scared witless. Those bandits fled down the mountain in panic, but they met the 800 martial artists head-on. It immediately turned into a crushing massacre. 2 hours later, the 3,000 bandits entrenched in the Black Tiger Stockade were all slaughtered. Everyone searched the entire stockade and found the place where the 3-life stone was mined. Under Xunlian's instructions, they destroyed the mine and finally set fire to the Black Tiger Stockade. Only then did they leave in high spirit. On the way back, the people who were imprisoned in the cells told each other about their experiences after talking with each other. It turned out that they were all robbed by the Black Tiger Stockade and offered to the Wind Demon. We were all captured in the past month. Before us, there were many people in that prison cell. They were villagers from a small village, and were all captured by the Black Tiger Stockade. Later, the Wind Demon was hungry and ate all of them. He kept us as snacks and ate 3 to 5 of them every day. Talking about what happened during this period of time, these survivors had lingering fears and trembled non-stop. The martial artists from New Kuan were also incomparably cold. Who would have thought that the bastards from the Black Tiger Stockade would actually rely on the demons and rob humans as food for the demons? It was simply outrageous and heinous. Sigh, this is a loophole. If it is a demon calamity, New Kuan would have detected it early and taken countermeasures. But if it is a bandit robbery, then it is the imperial court's duty, and we generally don't care. New Kuan's people sighed and mourned for those who had died. What about that slightly crazy person? Xinlian was most concerned about that crazy person who was shouting and screaming. He kept repeating the words, "Don't answer. We don't know him. He was captured alone." It was a pity that no one knew the identity of this crazy person. Someone recalled something and told Xinlian, "He is different from us. We were captured by the mountain bandits, but he was captured by the Wind Demon. It was the Wind Demon who threw him into the prison cell." The Wind Demon even said something like, "Your junior apprentice sister is soft and tender, she tastes good." Well, this person's identity is not simple. Xinlian asked people to take special care of that crazy person. They returned to New Kuan without any incident. The whole process of this operation was sorted out and sent to Man Boyu, Kong Yu, and the elders. The Wind Demon. New Kuan's higher-ups were collectively shocked and in an uproar. After all, she was the infamous Wind Demon, an existence that couldn't be killed. The Fury Kuan gang had been defeated repeatedly. Later, they didn't dare to provoke her anymore. They let her hunt and eat wantonly once every 9 years. They hated her so much that they couldn't do anything. Everyone either looked at the document alone, pondered silently, or gathered together to discuss. In Kong Yu's room, Bien Chanyu came. "Elder Bien, did you see that?" As expected of younger brother Shen. Even the Wind Demon was not his opponent. Kong Yu laughed and was in a very good mood. "Younger brother Shen, alas, you are in the limelight again." Bien Chanyu smiled, but there was a mass of worry between his eyebrows. In Gongsun Ji's room. What, Xinlian defeated the Wind Demon? Could it be that he was bragging and lying about his achievements? Holding the document in his hand, Gongsun Ji's face was full of doubts. He admitted that Xinlian was powerful, but Xinlian faced the Wind Demon, who could not be injured or killed. How did Xinlian defeat the Wind Demon? How was it possible? In the room, Yuanan and Rongchun were also there. The 3 of them were still hugging each other tightly. At this moment, Yuanan and Rongchun were also surprised and doubtful. After thinking about it, they thought of a possibility. The Wind Demon has no form. Only soul attacks can cause damage to it. In other words, Xinlian had a soul attack type Gu. This kid hid his strength well. The more Gongsun Ji knew about Xinlian, the more shocked he was. Unfathomable. Yuanan and Rongchun were also shocked, speechless. In the gang leader's study room, Man Boya threw the document on the desk, and there was deep fatigue on his face. "I thought Xiao Zhijiang could defeat Xinlian, but I didn't expect." Xiao Zhijiang had the Wind Demon behind him, and even the Wind Demon could not do anything to Xinlian. This made Man Boyu feel terrified, and his scalp went numb. After a while, Bulinkong came. "Gang leader." Man Boyu squeezed out a smile and asked, "Linkong, how is your refinement of the 3 puppet demon soldiers?" Bulinkong replied indifferently, "The progress is good. I have already reached the stage of mind and mind as one. I can control them freely without any hindrance. Thank you for giving me such a precious treasure. Good. Manboyu appeared to be slightly excited as he said meaningfully, Ling Kong, you're also a senior in the sect. Your relationships with people and prestige are both excellent. I also have great expectations for you. Bu Lingkong listened quietly. After returning to New Kuan, Shun Lian immediately sent the refugees home, and at the same time, asked Wu Yenzong to find a healing-type Gu master. Wu Yenzong quickly found one. This person was called Ning Roshin. She was a young woman with a dignified appearance, and there were faint freckles on her cheeks. Her temperament was also famous for being gentle and pleasant. Many people in the gang thought of her, and she had many admirers. Ning Roshin greets Elder Shen. Ning Roshin lowered her head and bowed. She was wearing white men's clothing, looking valiant, and had a petite and cute figure. She was indeed a beauty. No need for formalities. Shun Lian raised his hand. I called you here to let you take a look at this person. What is wrong with him, and whether he can return to normal. On the seat, the skinny frenzy was shivering. His eye sockets were sunken and his face was yellow. He was mumbling non-stop, and occasionally, he would let out a nightmarish scream, repeating the same words over and over again. Ning Roshin's expression turned solemn, and she carefully inspected him. She placed her palm above Frenzy's head, and a lustrous radiance shot out from her palm, enveloping Frenzy's body. Frenzy immediately calmed down. After about the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Ning Roshin withdrew her hand and wiped the sweat from her forehead. She reported, "This person has been cursed by some kind of curse. His chi and blood have been greatly damaged, and his spirit is dispirited. He has also been greatly stimulated, which caused him to go crazy." "Is there any way to save him?" Shun Lian asked. Ning Roshin nodded. "This subordinate is willing to try. If the method is effective, he will recover in 3 days. Otherwise, it will be very troublesome." "Do your best," Shun Lian hurriedly said. "Yes." Ning Roshin took Frenzy away. Afterward, Shun Lian announced that he would go into seclusion, but he quietly left in the middle of the night and returned before dawn. At noon the next day, New Kuan received a piece of bad news. The Sanxing stone mine had suddenly collapsed in the middle of the night. Fortunately, no one was working at night, and although the collapse was serious, no one was buried alive.